hold on. Oops, wrong thing. We know. Yeah, we know it's going to be a good stream because it started with a technical hiccup. I played the wrong clip.
Musings, where the technical difficulties are built into the intro.
And you had a little technical hitch, so you accidentally put the hissy fit thing up there. Is that sort of fraudulent?
No. That was on purpose. I was switching between the two.
Yeah. I think fair warning, that's going to be coming up quite a bit.
Before we get into things, I did promise that I would plug this. So I'll plug it at the beginning and at the end. Everyone here knows Bemelzebub. And his partner, Alex, has a GoFundMe to get a plane ticket to Germany because they are seeking refugee status over there because of all that transphobic BS that's cropping up in the redder portions of America. And link is in the description.
If they can get it and they can learn German, best of luck to them, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, am I coming through as stuttery as I seem to be? Right.
Yeah, I mean, just your visuals.
There was a power cut where I live during the intro playing. I can hear the alarms outside.
Oh, fun.
So my router's currently rebooting itself, so it will keep up. Fingers crossed. But if I cut out, that's why, folks, and I will be back as soon as I can.
Yeah.
Let's see if this helps. Nope. Let's see if this helps.
It actually did help.
Yeah, because it's using less bandwidth while the router recovers. Cool. Technical difficulties, folks. Can't live with them. Can't shoot them. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure an American has tried at some point.
I think that usually ends up causing more, though.
I mean, yeah, you shot down one weather balloon and two more appeared. I mean, not you personally, but, you know.
So, now we are every March I do basically, it's my birthday month, I'll stream what I want to. And so this week we're kicking that off with the 2022 Netflix Sandman season 1.
Okay, I need you all to understand that this is Rings. Here's how I force Noodle to watch things that Noodle hasn't got round to watching that I want them to watch yet. This is what Ring does to me. Because Ring has been going on about this TV show for ages. And unfortunately, I have a busy life.
Yeah.
Like an incredibly busy life. I have about 5 hours a week where I'm not neck deep in something or sleeping.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to sit down and watch a TV show, especially one that's like 11 episodes long on Netflix, I need I need to basically time my sleep pattern so I can make do with less sleep. and I just haven't got around to doing that for Sandman until this week.
Which is ironic.
Yeah. And I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. I lost sleep for this show.
Which, once again, is ironic.
And therefore, my opinion of it might be a little bit biased. But I've lost sleep for shows before and absolutely adored them. This one?
Not so much.
I am annoyed. Okay. I got to the end of this show, and if any of you were watching my Twitter feed yesterday, you already know at least one of my major issues with this show. I don't understand how Netflix, famous for cancelling shows, is picking this thing up for season 2. It's like, how dare you pick this thing up for season 2 while Hannibal season 4 has not been made yet? How dare you? I have opinions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, and so, for those of you who aren't aware, The Sandman is an adaptation of Neil Gaiman's classic comic run of the same name, which was released by DC's Vertigo line, which is where they put all of their more adult-oriented comics, and it's also a portion of the DC universe that plays fast and loose with its connection to the mainline comic stories.
Okay, disclaimer. I have not read the comics.
Neither have I.
I have read some. I have not read the entire run of Sandman. I have read. I'm probably about half of it. I've got one. I don't actually have any Sandman. I've only thing I've got. I realised is it's just a spin-off, which is one of the Death books. That's about the only thing I've actually got. And that's sort of a spin. Which obviously Death is a recurring character throughout Sandman books.
And that being said, it's also plain that Netflix is doing their best to keep the Sandman as its own separate thing, either probably because of copyright and issues.
Yeah.
Now, I have to give a disclaimer.
Yeah.
I adore Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is the first celebrity I was aware of on Tumblr. Neil Gaiman is lovely. Neil Gaiman is so kind to his fans. He is a gem. I cannot fault him. He, the way he talks about Terry Pratchett, the way he talks about his work, the way he supports LGBT rights, the way he's anti-racist. Cannot fault the man. Adore the man. Disclaimer, I do not understand how that man wrote this TV show. And therefore, anything I say about this TV show, at the moment, I have no reason to believe that any of the issues I have with it are anything but either an attempt to recreate something from nigh on 40 years ago that might have been progressive then but isn't now. Which, fair, because you're staying accurate to your source material. Or the Netflix executives vetoed something and they had to work around it.
Yeah.
Because the Neil Gaiman I'm aware of in popular culture and on social media, I don't want to believe that man produced this piece of work. This piece of work is incredibly... I have no problem with problematic media.
Yeah.
I don't understand how Mr. Sunshine and Roses, who created, and I've got I need you to see something. I need you to see something that is progressive for now and is from a comic book that I think is from the 70s. I need you to see this. Let me see. No, this one. I need you to see this. I don't know when exactly it's from. I don't know what it's from. But Neil Gaiman created this. And I am going to zoom in just so you can see.
Yeah.
So you see a woman coming to a gravestone, lipstick. I thought you'd like it. It's tacky flamingo or whatever it's called. It's your favorite color. This is a statement on a page that is progressive even for today. In an era when transgender people are being buried under their dead names, buried in suits when they preferred dresses because their parents are transphobic, made up to look the wrong gender in their coffin. This is an incredibly progressive, challenging page.
Can I tell you what that's from?
What's
that's
that from?
Sandman.
Yeah. It might be from Sandman.
Yeah.
I still...
Yeah.
That makes it even... That somehow makes my opinion of this TV show even worse. Although... Do you know what issue it's from? What era it's from?
It's 1990. It's issue number 32. It's November of 1991. I just double checked that. I thought it was Sandman. I just wanted to double check on it, so I did some googling.
Yeah.
So this is 30 years old. So again, the reason I share this is to show you that I presume Sandman season 1's only based on the first few books in the Sandman series, because I know it went on for fucking ever. I think
it's like only the first couple arcs.
It's the first two two arcs, and there's a couple of stories from Dream Country as well, I think.
Yeah. So the TV show is based on source material that predates this. And I absolutely... all power to Neil Gaiman from growing out of being the guy who would write something that TV show was based on to writing this in the space of 5 years. Power to you, bud. All respect, all love. But this TV show has serious problems with race and also with gender and also with sexuality.
Also, just from the now I will asterisk this that this is from Wikipedia. But Gaiman did describe the early issues as awkward and said he didn't really find his groove in it until like several issues in.
Yeah. That is incredibly obvious in the TV show. There are also several issues to do with race in the TV show that I will get into. But the reason I say all of this, why I've shown this, and I want to have this conversation early on, none of what I say is an attack on Neil Gaiman. I absolutely believe that any missteps the man made were inadvertent. I don't believe the man's got a racist bone in his body. Not a deliberately racist one anyway. I don't believe he's got an LGBTQ phobic bone in his body. Not deliberately. But there are issues with this TV show.
Yeah.
Okay,
I am neither attributing them to him nor blaming him for them. But his name is on this TV show, so...
Okay, so here's...
I have to acknowledge that.
So the first 7 issues were inspired and influenced by early DC and EC comics and authors like Dennis Wheatley, Clive Barker, Ramsey Campbell, Robert Heinlein, and Alan Moore. But with issue 8, he says he finally found his own voice.
Yeah. That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Heinlein strikes again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
Learn. Sorry.
That will. I finished this series thinking I'm not interested in season 2.
Yeah.
Knowing that this season, the next season might pick up more of Gaiman's voice and Gaiman's approach to writing as opposed to just drawing from old material, I might give it a shot.
Yeah.
That's how much respect I have for this man as a writer. I need you to understand, anything I say is not an attack on him. It is like, you've read that list of influences and suddenly about 90% of my issues with that TV show disappeared because I understand them. Like, I don't like them, but I understand them now. I know where they came from. So yeah, I am judging this TV show on the basis of this is a TV show released in 2022. Without forgetting that this is based on source material from 1985 or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to say that because a lot of the things I'm going to say, I am going to be quite scathing about a lot of the things in this TV show.
Yeah.
And I make no apology for it, but I do want to just clarify this is not a personal attack on Neil Gaiman, because I absolutely don't believe the man had any malice. I think he's just trying to recreate something that he wrote 45 years ago before he knew better. And that's fine. But that's the angle I'm coming at it from. This is a moment where you can separate the art from the artist. And that's what I want to clarify that that's what I'm doing. So when I get scathing, no one says that I'm having a dig at Neil Gaiman.
And for those of us, this is going, and just an early taste of a banner that's going to be used a lot once we get to the finale.
Yes, quite.
Yeah.
But before we get to the finale, we have to start. And I have a problem. And if you watch my Twitter feed, you know the problem. When you present me a character, and that character, the first act we see them do, the first thing we see them do, of any consequence whatsoever, is murder a puppy. It's going to take a long fucking time for them to recover from that. They ain't going to recover from, no matter what you do, no matter how many people you rescue, how many lives you save, you will still be a puppy murderer.
To be honest,
especially when you murdered the puppy and then didn't actually use the power boost you got from it. Like, the puppy did not need to die. That was utterly, that was just cruel. and again, power to Gaiman for making me love a CGI gargoyle enough to call it a puppy within 3 minutes. But then he murdered it. Stop.
That's
I need you to understand that Morpheus, in that, before I even knew Morpheus's name, I hated him. How do you bring your protagonist back from that?
That's the weird thing about him. Is even in the books, even though I really enjoyed the books, I don't actually find Morpheus like the most likable protagonist. Actually,
exactly.
I never. He's really not. He's not that likable in a lot of ways.
No, at best he's an anti-hero.
Yeah.
At worst, he's a villain protagonist. Like, he is not likable as a character. And protagonists don't have to be likable, but they have to be compelling. The problem is, I'm British and I'm Northern and I'm from Yorkshire. And if you murder a puppy, the only thing that compels me about you is all the ways I imagine you dying painfully. You know, is that my fault? Possibly, but that's a big, like, the fact that by the end of the season I wasn't actively wishing for Morpheus to die is power to Gaiman's writing, but boy, was that a long journey. I was not rooting for Morpheus for at least 7 episodes. Because the puppy.
Yeah.
Because everything he did, I was just like, But why did the puppy have to die? But the puppy though. It's like, I don't care how many lives you save, how friendly you are with the granddaughter of John Constantine, or
No,
and
so
I'm sorry, the fact that you saved the life of a royal does not count in your favor, bud.
Okay.
well, no, that it wasn't.
Or helped. I say helped.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Because like I said, because Sandman was a DC Comics run and was under the Vertigo title. There's another character with a running series that was under the Vertigo title. This series was known as Hellblazer, and John Constantine actually does actually appear in the first run of, in the run of Sandman as the one who has the sand. They just gender swapped John Constantine to further remove it from the current DC works in progress. They did the same thing with Lucifer.
Yeah. That works. Yeah. But no matter what you do, no matter how many lives you save, I'm still going to look at you in your moment of triumph and go, but you murdered a puppy.
Yeah.
And there ain't no coming back from that. This is not. Like, you can make a psychopath compelling and like heartwarming by making them stop and pick up a puppy at the side of the road. In any you have a character do that, and your audience will forgive them anything. It works the other way as well, though. If your character murders an animal, they're dead to me.
I think, to be honest, even if we knew that puppy was going to grow up to be the Hounds of the Baskervilles, he still killed a puppy.
That thing could have grown up to be Cerberus. That thing could have been personally responsible for bringing in the flea that caused the plague across Europe. And I would still side-eye you if you murdered it. Like, no. Not happening. No. No. So, I don't know about you, Scummer, but that immediately puts me 2 steps back on even... I don't have to like a protagonist.
No.
Everything he does now is coloured by it, but you murdered the puppy.
Yeah.
And then compounded by the fact that he thinks he can just replace it. Like, I mean, I get that it was an attempt to recover that early he murdered a puppy thing. I get that that's what that was for. It was meant to be a show of kindness and a show of, trying to repair the damage.
Yeah.
But you murdered a puppy. Someone step in and say something about this,
so
because
I think that
episodes we get over that, and I'm still not over it.
This is the thing here. We've got to bear in mind that there's several characters in this scene. One of them murders his own brother on a daily basis.
No.
The thing we're taking away here is the puppy killer.
No. But that's Cain and Abel, and his brother comes back to life.
Yeah.
That's you murdered a puppy. But the thing is, you didn't just murder it, you sacrificed it and then didn't even make use of that sacrifice. That's like...
Or that could possibly be an error in storytelling. Because perhaps, like, I'm playing Dreams advocate here, and where we're saying that perhaps the boost he got from absorbing Gregory was enough that allowed him to actually continue on his quest, and just that.
But
then they should have shown him as weaker,
prior, yes. Because that, to me, looking at that, coming to this with absolutely no knowledge of the media, it's within.
Yeah.
The only reason I can think for that scene to even exist is to make me dislike the character.
Yeah.
It's not a textual reason. It's not an in-world reason, because it has no in-world consequence except to piss off Kane. And Kane's already pissed off. He's the first murderer. He's perpetually pissed off. That's the point of him. That's his story. So,
though that being said, I did love the moment of Kane calling Abel a simpering suck up.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And don't get me wrong, Goldie is adorable, objectively adorable. Yeah. But it's not like when Groot died. When Groot died, there was a reason. Groot's sacrifice meant something.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to make me fall in love with a CGI goblin and then murder it for no reason. No. There are consequences when you do that.
Yeah.
Okay, and the consequences are that your protagonist now has to work 10 times harder for me to view them as even vaguely resembling. I mean, I get it. It's supposed to make him seem inhuman, cold, calculating, like so far above the humanity in the world that individual lives don't matter to him. I get all of that. He still murdered a puppy.
And it also Dream's arc throughout the first season, and I have a feeling they'll continue going, progressing through, through other season, is that he has to learn how to be more than just a force of nature doing its job.
Exactly. And he doesn't learn that until the very last sort of 20 minutes of the last episode. And even when he does, he approaches it in a way that is incredibly, incredibly frustrating for me as someone who really wanted to like this show and this character.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously, I'm sure we'll get to it, but obviously, you have the episode that's sort of halfway through, which is, sort of telling two sort of short stories in a sense, but, of his sister sort of trying to get him to understand humanity a little bit more, with like saying you might need to make a friend kind of thing.
Yes.
And the story of Hob,
I'm sure. And the story of Hob is beautiful.
I love,
and he's part of his growth.
My favorite. It's actually probably my favorite episode of this series. That one, I've got to say.
But
absolutely. So I have a feeling that we don't really have much to say about the first episode, which is basically a trapped genie story from the perspective of the genie.
It's a MacGuffin movie in 40 minutes, isn't it? I have a few things. I wrote a comment here of, I really need middle-aged rich men to just get therapy.
Like, if
you're a middle-aged white man and you're grieving, please just get therapy.
Yeah.
Please. I promise you the demon is not the answer. Therapy is your answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The scapegoat child is very well done.
Yeah.
But again, it's a trope. The ignored child becomes the problem. Nicely sidestepped, I thought, by the way it was done there.
Yeah.
Encephalitis lethargica was a thing. It was an actual thing. It happens every century or so. That's something resembling this sleepy sickness. And they've called it encephalitis because they think it's a form of post-viral illness. It's like I've looked at the dates of all the times it's appeared throughout history, and it always seems to appear like 20 to 30 years after a major viral pandemic or a major pandemic of some.
Well, so basically, have your calendars marked for the 2040.
Basically, yeah. It's pretty much as there's some issues being taken, but it is a thing. It looks post-viral, like it happened after the plague, it happened after the Spanish flu, happened after the Second World War. Some people have thought that maybe it's a response, it's like a form of mass hysteria response to mass trauma, like major world wars and things like that. There's a lot of competing arguments, and honestly, the idea that it's caused because Dream got locked up by like a middle-aged white man who needed therapy is as good a suggestion as any as to what causes it at this point. They call it encephalitis because they think it's an inflammation on the brain, because all the symptoms point to it being an inflammation on the brain when you look at it. But honestly, you could have been like sprayed with fairy dust and made to dance on mushrooms for what caused it. It could be anything. And it's so strange. But when the people wake up, they wake up and some of them are fine, but some of them have memory issues and they look almost like they've had strokes, like severe strokes, some of them. And I love the way Gaiman wrote that into this. I thought that was a very, very clever use of a real historical event to ground an urban fantasy into, because that is one of those events. It's like the legend of the people disappearing after they landed in America.
Oh,
it's one of those real world events.
Roanoke, the Roanoke colony.
It's a genuine mystery. No one knows what it is.
Actually,
so I absolutely did love that.
That being said, it's like, as far as I'm aware, Roanoke is not that much of an issue or of a mystery.
Oh yeah, no, we know, but for most people, it's like, I know it's not a mystery because I studied it at uni. But for most people, it's like the disappearance of the 9th. For most people, that is, we know what happened. But
please go and check out mine and Noodle's Asterix streams to find out what really happened to the 9th.
But in this case, they literally do not know. It is a medical mystery. And there is no, if you've studied it, you know the answer. There is no answer.
I think the only thing better in fiction, I think, is an explanation for not so much a mystery or something, but like, sort of, it's Red Dwarf's explanation for the Kennedy assassination, where they actually have John F. Kennedy as the second gunman on the grassy knoll. That's the only thing that's better.
Yeah. I mean,
and Lister even says it will drive the conspiracy theorists nuts.
No, but this is, if you are looking to ground your urban fantasy work, because this is urban fantasy in real life, taking something like that, a genuine medical mystery, and forming something around that, spot on. No notes,
especially
no comments.
they just start, especially as well, sort of in the time period as well, when you have the people capturing these aristocratic, like sort of Crowley types,
Yes.
Well, and Burgess is mentioned as an associate of Aleister Crowley.
Yes, he is a rival.
Yeah. It's because again, this was quite a popular thing amongst the sort of upper classes in Britain at the time. Was this occultism and that
spiritualism?
People like the Golden Dawn, all that sort of stuff.
Was it Kipling who got drawn into it after his brother died? After his son died?
May have been. I'm trying to think.
I know Doyle was because he and Houdini actually had a bust up over it.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's a thing that in the late 1800s it basically replaced the Church of England for a while. It was massive. It was huge. But so that is a thing. Now, there's something I want to check because you've just made me think. In episode 1, have you got the comic book that lines up with the plot of episode 1, Scummer?
I don't. I'm afraid no.
I'm going to ask you to search your memory for me then.
Oh, it's been
There's
a while.
Brilliant visual gag in episode 1 that you only get if you're British. The two, well, or if you're British or you're married to someone like me who's British and very loud about my opinion on this, and if you're from Liverpool, you'll love it. The two security guards watching him in his glass cage right before he escapes are sat there, and she says to him, "What do you think it is?" or something like that. And he sat there reading the Sun newspaper saying the words, "I try not to think." I cackled. I don't know if it was deliberate, but it was fucking perfect.
I think, to be honest, that sums Sun readers up in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Especially because he was talking about going on holiday to Mallorca right before that sentence.
Yeah.
And you know the Sun does their cheap Mallorca holidays every
Though,
year.
I mean,
No notes.
Hold on. Just gonna do some quick date checking. Okay. So if it isn't, I'm still willing to say that it may be Gaiman's influence on the series, because the directors, the people who made the series for Netflix did involve Gaiman to
you mean
some
he
degree.
has a good agent?
Yeah.
Let's
put it this way. I think Neil Gaiman's enough of a control. He'll give up a little bit of control, but he's not going to. I don't think he's going to let some TV adaptation of his work go out there without having any involvement in it whatsoever. But he's not the type.
My point is that even if it isn't in the original version, in the comic version, that issue was probably written before Gaiman started working with Terry Pratchett on Good Omens. So he probably picked up enough Britishness from Terry Pratchett to insert that joke. I'm willing to attribute it to Gaiman.
Yes, and I also I just checked, I just Googled it because I'm not up on my football history. The comic book it's based on, I presume, is one of the early ones and predates the Hillsborough disaster as well.
Yes, it does.
So
I think this I'm pretty sure this first comic book was literally about a year before Hillsborough.
Yeah.
So,
but again, absolutely no notes. Love it. That's how you. Yeah. We all know someone who works security who is that guy.
Yeah.
We all know someone.
I mean, Gaiman would understand these things anyway. So
yes,
he was born. He's actually born just down the road from where I live. So
yeah. So Gaiman's British as well. So yeah. I did want to discuss and just have a quick thing about Gaiman knows how to make you dislike a character because he does it with the Corinthian.
Yeah.
There's a line the Corinthian says that immediately got my is here Spartan fascist alarm bells ringing. When he talks about, I want to reshape you to look just like me, and he's like albino, like Matrix evil.
Yeah.
That's like how to make me dislike a character in one sentence or less without making them murder a puppy because you've already done that.
Yeah.
just something like that. And then of course we end that episode on the return of the king to a destroyed kingdom.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get the impression that Dream was ever really a good administrator.
Well,
but
we kind of get that sense during the second arc that he was too much of a hands-on micromanager.
Yeah, you get the feeling that yes, he does take his job seriously, possibly a little too seriously at times.
Yes, he's a right royal Jobsworth.
Yeah.
He's a proper Jobsworth. But then we go into episode 2 and we have the setup for the MacGuffin hunt, which is the first arc.
Yeah.
Because these things are MacGuffins, let's be clear
Yeah.
here. If he made them as tools, that means he has the power to do what they do anyway. They are MacGuffins.
Yeah.
They are crutches.
That's the thing about tools. They can be the most subtle of traps.
Exactly. And I need to make a statement. If you understand how the fates work in this TV show, and I ever hear you making a joke that the Catholic deific Trinity is incomprehensible to you, we're going to be having words. Because the fates in this show, Holy Trinity, right there. That's how you understand the Holy Trinity. So from now on, I am literally just going to tell people it's like the fates in Sandman if they ask about the Catholic Trinity, because that's what that is.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as I know, Hellenic pagans don't try to pretend they're monotheists.
No, they don't. But the idea of 3 in 1, separate but combined, that's the... And Hecate's like that. The 3 aspects of Diana, like the tripartite goddess, the tripartite deity, is not by any stretch monopolized by Catholicism.
Yeah.
Like Catholicism, like it clearly just went, oh, we'll have that from about 4 different religions. It's not an uncommon concept, but it winds me up when people can understand it in media, understand it in fiction, but still use it as a bludgeon against Catholics. Because let me tell you something, as an ex-Catholic, if your only argument against Catholicism is you don't understand the Trinity, then you don't understand Catholicism and shouldn't be criticizing it. Because there are a lot of issues with Catholicism. That ain't one of them.
Well, I mean, I poke fun at the Trinity, but I mean, Pentecostals also have, are also Trinitarian.
Yeah. So you're doing it from the inside, so that's fair. But if you don't understand the Trinity, don't poke fun. If you know what you're talking about before you have a dig, basically.
Like, oh my gosh, I just realized something.
What?
Like, if you remove the strict hierarchy and ritual from Catholicism, you get Pentecostals.
This is news to you. We're going to be having words after this stream. I'm going to send you the historical map of Christianity. You know how at the very top it says Catholic, and then it splits off, and then there's a huge fucking... It looks like a lung diagram on one side.
Yeah, no, I get that. No, I get that, but I mean, like, Pentecostalism is, several branches separate, right?
I mean, to be fair, Pentecostalism is also like your people like spoke in tongues and shit.
Yeah.
Catholics don't
so
do that.
yeah, Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is it's like it's like
it's Catholic with extra crazy. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's like pointing out that, like in taxonomic terms, it's like pointing out that hyenas are closer to cats than dogs.
In taxonomic terms, you can hold up Pentecostalism and say, "Behold, a Catholic."
Yeah, behold a Catholic. Yes. Yes.
Please don't anyone ever take that out of context. But yeah. So if you understand that, you understand the Trinity. On a similar note for episode 2, I really want a family that don't meddle in my affairs, please. Like, pretty please?
Yeah.
Can I be a cosmic, endless, not deity, but deity, really, even though I don't demand worship, whose siblings and extended family leave me the fuck alone to do my own thing in my own space?
But they don't.
Can I have that?
But they don't.
Okay, but most of them do. Can I have that? I'd like that, please. Why are you complaining about that dream? That's like the dream. That's the literal dream. Why are you
Yeah.
Tell me you don't have a big family without telling me you don't have a big family, Neil Gaiman.
Also,
yeah. Well, I was just say some context on Gaiman as well. I don't know if people know his religious sort of upbringing. Well, let's just say there's a reason that his family moved from Porchester to East Grinstead. Now, I don't know if you know who owns a big property in East Grinstead, the Church of Scientology.
Oh,
yeah,
that explains
his father, David Gaiman, was like the UK spokesperson for Neil Gaiman. I'll say he's sort of out of it, but he doesn't tend to talk about it a lot, and I think a lot of that's probably because I think he's still got family inside of Scientology that he still maybe wants to talk to.
that's fair.
Also, they will like ruthlessly come after you if you say anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, his own father was heavily involved in the what they call fair gaming against an American journalist called Paulette Cooper. Neil Gaiman's own father was heavily involved in that.
Yeah. But yeah, you don't get the puppy. I have issues with the use of the puppy. Cain and Abel is the houses of mystery and secrets. Very fitting.
Yeah.
The first story, Cain and Abel, are more a story than a religious event now. Again, all part of Dream Sing. Love the use of the Crossroads law there. The only thing missing was Robert Johnson over the score. Love it. No notes. If you're going to adapt existing law, that's how you do it. No notes. Neil Gaiman, master, we bow down. Yeah, that's how you do that.
Also, I am going to point to the intimate symbolism and wave at it as it passes by.
Yes, let's do that. Let's also the idea of the hanged man, the snake, and it's very well done. The way the fates respond to him, speak to him, keep him on the straight and narrow. Like, the one thing Neil Gaiman really understands, and you pick this up in the first episode, is cosmic level entities are rules lawyers.
Yeah.
They are full on, like, neutral, like lawful neutral. They are incapable of creative thought or finding loopholes and shit. And that's like 90% of the reason I dislike Dream, because he's fucking incapable of creative thought and problem solving. He winds me right up in that sense.
Yeah.
And when we get to the bit that really winds me up about that, I'll talk about it more. But he's just, there's no, it's like, dude, you stayed in prison for 60 years because you couldn't see past your own need for revenge on the person who didn't even imprison you.
Yeah.
Also, when are we going to talk about the difference between a magpie and a raven?
Yeah.
That first bird that was
Actually,
Blurred.
there
was a magpie, not a raven. No,
Uh,
it was a literal magpie. Jessamy was a magpie.
Actually, no, she was an African raven.
Show me where in Britain African ravens live. Show me.
She's not
They sure
British.
as hell don't.
She came from the Dreaming.
Yes,
Yeah.
she may have done. But she existed in a British context, and no British person is looking at that and thinking anything but magpie.
Yeah.
And that kind of foreshadowed. Do you have the magpie song in America? The magpie song, one for sorrow, two for joy?
No.
I should probably know more about this country before I apply for a visa to go live there, but again, we'll put a pin in that and deal with it later.
Or
Okay.
that it may be also, it may less be an American versus British thing, and more may also be a I grew up super fundy thing.
Do you know the magpie song, Scummer?
You had to jog my memory on it, because when you said that, so I it's not something.
But you know it. You heard it as a kid.
I know of it. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret never to be told.
Yeah. Okay. That jogs my memory a bit now. Yeah.
It's counting magpies. It's an omen thing. I can understand why a fundy family wouldn't teach it to you, because it's, I don't know, I suppose it's vaguely occult in a weird way, but that's just how British culture is. But yeah, so 1 magpie on its own, 4 sorry, that's not ending well if you're British and you're looking at it and you see a magpie, whether it's meant to be a magpie or not. But yeah, just an interesting aside that got way off track.
Yeah.
But that's what I thought when I saw that. And then the Crossroads Law, very good, very well adapted for what it is. Took the cross out, used it to call the fates. Obviously, that's, if anyone's a Supernatural fan, that's where that most famously is used.
Yeah.
But yeah, demon at the crossroads, devil at the crossroads, minor deity at the crossroads.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you remember, jog my memory.
Yeah.
Supernatural did an episode on the Robert Johnson myth, didn't they?
Supernatural's by season 4, the whole of Supernatural was based around Crossroads Law.
Yeah.
It was just, but they did a season 2 episode of the Robert Johnson myth. It's not a bad rundown of the Robert Johnson myth if you want to watch it. It doesn't go into detail, but it's as good you're never going to be asked more than what the episode has in it as a pop quiz. I think the episode was called something like, was it Crossroad Blues?
Yes, that's because the name of the song. That's the name of the song.
Yeah. Of course, Robert Johnson song.
Yeah.
And absolutely, Robert Johnson legend. It's famous. Tommy Johnson. You can research it. I researched it as a teenager.
I always say Robert Johnson, the original member of the 27 Club.
Yes.
So.
And the way he went down. Just side tangent. The way Robert Johnson died, he was in a bar. He ordered a drink. And no one knows if his drink was poisoned or if it was an accident or what the hell happened. But apparently he died screaming about big evil dogs attacking him.
Yeah.
Best guess is it was strychnine poisoning from a jealous lover of a woman he'd fucked or a jealous husband.
That seems to be the general theory, I think, but it's not.
Yeah.
No one really knows.
No one knows. And it was so early, there was no autopsy is going to tell you.
Of course, because that was another song of his, Hellhound on My Trail. Not
Yeah,
a famous song of his.
absolutely. So the man already had
love
a
of
vivid
blues.
imagination.
I'm
Yeah.
a bit of a. I'm not just into my metal. I'm a bit of a blues nut as well.
Yeah.
So
No, so he's but Robert Johnson famously, Robert Johnson only released like half a dozen tracks. All of his tracks are on like every major music platform. Go listen to them. They're haunting, they're beautiful, and it does sound at certain points like there are 2 or 3 guitars playing. I promise you, there's only one. That's why they think he sold his soul, because the way he played, like Eric Clapton cites Robert Johnson as one of his major guitaring heroes.
I think you find there's a lot of like famous. I mean, obviously, you mentioned Clapton, because Cream famously covered Crossroads well. So, and like anyway, let's run a sidetrack.
Yeah. Shall we move on to everyone's favorite DC bisexual disaster?
Oh, Desire.
Constantine.
Yeah, Constantine.
Oh no, yeah, sorry.
These two characters, I love the interplay between Morpheus and Constantine, because what you essentially get in one episode is an incredibly well-rounded study of PTSD in media.
Yeah.
From 2 different points of view. And it's really interesting to see them play off of each other, and there's a little bit of trauma bonding that goes on, but not a lot. And there's trauma bonding in the layperson sense, not in the medical sense. No one come at me, but and there's a lot of this episode goes out of its way, I think, to be. This is by far the objectively funniest episode of the season.
Yeah.
Like, this is the episode with Rick the Vic and the royal family, and Matthew is introduced, who I adore Matthew. I want a Matthew plush. I want a Matthew plushie. Matthew's just fun.
Like, knowing how you feel about birds, that is saying something.
Yeah, and ravens in particular terrify the life out of me, but I want a Matthew plushie. Matthew is hilarious. I love him. He's brilliant. Rick the Vic, if more vicars were like that in the Church of England wouldn't have fallen to like less than 50% of the British population. The whole interplay with Joanna and Rick is fantastic. Loving that we get a female person of color as the vicar.
Yeah.
Again, no notes. Great. Love it. Loving this is by far the most scathing indictment of the British royal family on screen. Like, the idea that, so they come in.
Right about the demon, wrong about the host.
Yeah. So the princess is so crazy that, like, the royal family does have a history of, we'll call it mental health issues. So absolutely can believe one or more of them has been possessed by demons in the past, to the point that the Constantines have a rule that they don't deal with royals. Absolutely. Not quite sure why you'd invoice Buckingham Palace for a minor princess, but go off, I guess. Maybe they deal with the finances. I mean, they're clearly not maintaining their own property because they had to get money out of the British Treasury to fix the fucking cladding, but sure, go with that. They're clearly spending the money somewhere else.
It's on all the Exorcists.
Yeah, and that's just the ones for Charles and Camilla. Bitchy Noodle.
Yes. Well, please know they're not spending so much on Harry these days.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely look.
Yeah.
Maybe demonic possession is going to be their excuse for Prince Andrew. I don't fucking know,
but also,
no, I mean, even demons aren't that twisted.
No.
Also, for everyone who's, for all the people who's like, you can't, you can't race swap, gender swap a character from the source material.
Yes.
Look at the Sandman. This is how you fucking do it.
Yes, this is absolutely how you.
I was gonna get to this later, and you probably know which character.
Yeah.
Because the one everyone lost their all the people lost their fucking minds about.
Yeah, I do also love how Constantine is like. I do love how a person's sexuality is utterly irrelevant in this show.
Yeah.
Like, I have my issues with the portrayal of sexuality in a later episode, but love how Constantine is literally just a 20-something hot mess with a string of ex-girlfriends, and that's just her thing.
Or
and that's how she lives.
Ex-partners. There were male names in there.
Okay, fair. I didn't pick up on that. Nice catch.
Yeah, Oliver.
Yeah, fair. Though, to be fair, have you met many British lesbians? It's very possible more than one will go by the name of Oliver.
And also, that may be a, that also may be me, projecting my comic knowledge onto the piece, because Constantine is a bisexual disaster in the comics.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't be bisexual and not be a disaster when those comics were written, so... Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that does play out in real life. I am Exhibit A. But I will say I take issue with something, and I blame the actors for this, because the actors are British and they should have known better. I specifically blame the actor for Constantine. The Cockney rhyming slang and the use of love is all over the fucking shop.
Yeah.
Londoners don't call people love to start with.
That's more your part of the world.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about 200 miles south of where it needs to be. Also, at the start of the episode, before you realise she's in central London, her accent sounds more like a Geordie than a Londoner. That's 500 miles north of where it, like, her accent's 500 miles north of where it needs to be. That's literally like going to Texas and trying to get away with a Michigan accent for the Americans conceptually. Like, that's the equivalent of. The Geordies are right up on the northern border, and she's sounding like a Geordie.
Let's put it this way: there's some people with Geordie accent. You just sometimes it is just purely incomprehensible to people that live in my part of the UK.
Look, when a Geordie speaks, what you do is you nod, you smile, you hand them a drink of that alcohol of choice, and you take a step back. You also watch for if they're wearing a coat, because if they're wearing a coat, you're already snowed in. That's what you need to know about Geordies. And I say that with all love and affection for them. They're brilliant people. I love them.
I think people need to go and watch the Fast Show sketch, Geordie of the Antarctic. They'll give you an idea.
Go watch Geordie of the Antarctic. It's brilliant. It's
such a great. I know it's a stereotype, but it is. It's
closest
you get to a true.
It's
the closest thing you got to in the world to a true stereotype is Geordies.
Yeah, it's like, So, the accent thing, like, you're a British actress. You should know the difference between a Geordie and a London accent, and you shouldn't be talking like a fucking Yorkshireman. What the fuck's going on? It makes no sense. It makes zero sense to a British person. It would be like me writing an American character from the Midwest and giving them a Seattle accent, but having them say "a" every other sentence and calling people y'all.
Yeah,
that would mind boggle the Americans. I'm
gonna say a British person saying y'all just does not sound right.
No, but y'all. If I wrote an American saying y'all, but put them from, like, I don't know, Oregon, but then gave them like a New York accent and had them yell at someone that they're walking here. That's the level of confusion her accent was doing. and her script was doing. She can't be blamed for the script. She can be blamed for like Geordieing up the London accent. I didn't realize Geordie accents could sound like London like.
I didn't know Geordie rhyming slang was a thing.
Yeah.
No, it should be though. Geordie rhyming slang would be hilarious.
I think that'd be fucking brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, to make you understand, the Geordies are from Newcastle.
Yeah.
They're closer to Edinburgh than they are to London.
Yeah.
Why, man?
There you go. So yeah, just wanted to point that out for episode 3.
Yeah.
Love Matthew though; he's hilarious because he's like, I do love he's both the comic relief and he's also like the misanthropic, like human beings don't give a shit about anything but themselves character, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Yeah, Matthew as a character is just fantastic. I adore him.
Yeah.
And then we hit episode 4, and we have
and fuck it, we're going to hell.
Fuck it, we're going to hell. Because when you said going to hell, I didn't think you meant literally, but cool. Yeah. The first thing I want to point out is about the architecture of hell.
Yeah.
Now, Ring, I pointed this out to you, so don't say it, but did you notice the architecture of hell, Scummer? Did you notice where you've seen the architecture layout before?
Oh. Go on.
It's the Vatican City. Like the square with the circle and the columns, right? It's Vatican City. And it's a blink and you miss it detail. But there's a point where the camera pans up and looks down and it's Vatican City.
Hands up, I blinked.
Yeah. No, it is an absolute, And I adore the idea that the devil based his main city square on Vatican City, because that's definitely a commentary about organized religion.
Yeah.
And I'm here for that.
And another example of hey, you can gender swap and it works.
Yeah.
In this one as well, another example.
Lucifer.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I would have said Lucifer works better as a woman.
Well,
I adore it.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen the TV show Lucifer with is it Tom Ellis? Because that's a thing at the moment, isn't it? Which is the same basically the same character, but I assume that this is to do with like not trying not to step on toes here.
I've seen trailers for it and stuff. I never watched it.
It's it's a bit more comedic or whatever. But I mean, in a sense, because a lot of the Lucifer comics weren't written by Gaiman, but the sort of start of the character is kind of by Gaiman, so it's sort of other writers sort of took it on a bit.
Now, I have a lot to say about how much I love the shape-shifting duel.
Yeah.
Yes.
I still say though it doesn't compare to the one in the Adam Sandler film Little Nicky. That was better.
Never seen it, so I wouldn't know.
Never
I'll take your word for it.
Well, in the Adam Sandler one, what I think the evil character shapeshifts into a bat, and to combat it, I think it's Adam Sandler. He shapeshifts into Ozzy Osbourne. Bites the head.
Now,
no, not.
But
but
what's
just before Ring gets started, touch of analysis. Very obviously modelled after Mordred and Merlin in the Arthurian canon.
Yeah.
Is it Mordred? The famous duel in the Arthurian canon.
Oh.
Pretty much any duel between wizards ends like this if it involves shape-shifting. It's a thing. It goes back about 900 years. It lends gravitas to the whole thing, but it's fun to look at, and there's not much more to say on it. And now I'm going to let Ring fan me to their heart's content.
Oh, Oh, there's not much more to say about it. Hey.
Well, there is, but from a purely point of view of this is a shape-shifting jewel, that bit of analysis is, yeah, it's Arthurian.
Well, what's more important is what it says about each character.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and that's what shape-shifting jewels have been used for ad nauseum. Like the point of a shape-shifting jewel is to show you the nature of the duelists.
Yeah,
that's what that's for.
And up until like the third round, it's your typical shape-shifting duel.
Yes, and then it gets very esoteric, very metaphysical, and it starts getting okay. I'm going to let you talk about it, and then I'm going to make one comment at the end.
Okay, so, first, like I said, the first three moves, the first three turns are very typical shape-shifting duel.
Mm-hmm.
Lucifer becomes a dire wolf, Dream becomes a hunter, Lucifer becomes a snake to bite the, horse of the hunter, Dream becomes a hawk, and then Lucifer becomes the typical ending move of a bacteria.
Yeah.
But then it gets more esoteric and reveals more about the characters.
Yeah.
Dream becomes a world. And he tries to encompass Lucifer.
Yes, he becomes the antithesis of destruction with creation, essentially.
And this is this is what the show is telling us about who the god of dreams and who the god of dreams is and who Lucifer is, because Lucifer can only destroy. Lucifer only turns into something that will destroy Dream, while Dream expands and encompasses and creates what was meant to destroy.
Yes. For the nature of dreams and the nature of a cosmic entity that controls. And this is the point at which the show begins to conflate the various meanings of dream. So you have dreams as in the thing you do when you sleep. You have dreams as in ambitions, as in goals, as in, dreams in that sense.
Yeah.
And then it gets even more esoteric in this Joel, because you get hope, which is the ultimate expression of having a dream. Yeah. Like when it is both the ultimate expression of and also the barest element of, you cannot have a dream without hope.
Yeah.
And in that sense, we see. My problem with that is, yes, you are the living embodiment of hope and ambition and joy and dreams. You still murdered a puppy. Like,
what about the puppy's hopes and dreams?
Exactly. Like, this is my problem with this character. Like, you literally defeated the devil with hope and belief and your love for humanity and the human urge to always have hope and belief. Like, humans, the one thing we have as a species, we are unfailingly optimistic. Like, most species going through what our species has gone through just in the last 5 years would have disbanded, laid down and died. But our species just goes, nope, the sun will rise, the sun will set, let's try again in the morning. There's always another election, there's always another thing. We can make antibiotics, we can make vaccines. Our humanity's defining trait is our ability to go, fuck it, let's give it a shot. And this captures that perfectly. And this captures how he is the king of that and therefore embodies that in a cosmic sense. But he still murdered a puppy. Like, this scene for any other character would immediately have me rooting for him. I would be 1,000% behind that character. That character can now do no wrong. but he murdered a puppy. And therefore, he might be the living embodiment of hope and dreams.
You kind of feel like
But
he needed to do a lot more good stuff to get you a little less hostile before having this duel, perhaps.
Look, he literally defeated the devil in combat and then escaped hell. He still murdered a puppy, and he's still a vindictive, vicious little shit.
Yeah.
He still is. Like, we see it on his way into hell. He sees an ex who's locked up in hell, and I haven't forgiven you 10,000 years, so I'm going to leave you here.
Yeah, and there is. I mean, without getting into it, because I won't say too much, because it might be a subject that comes up in series 2. But there is some backstory to that in the comic books as well.
There may be backstory to that, but there's backstory in a later episode with another character who is in an arguably similar, if not as extreme, situation, and he bends over backwards to help that character. And there's only one difference between the two when you look at them. And you have to look at them to see the difference.
I'm only saying because of the way that it appeared, the way that this series seems to have gone, at least somewhat in order of the books. I'm just saying, I think this might be a plot point in season 2. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see when season 2 comes out.
But yeah, it's part of season 1. It's not. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an issue. And it's a concern. Now, at this point, when the protagonist has defeated the devil, and I still don't like him, and I still don't find him compelling, and I'm still not rooting for him because all I can think about is the puppy. There's not much else. Like, what if you beat the devil? What else could you do? Like, short of reconstituting the puppy exactly as it lived with all its memories and apologizing to it, sweet FA. And you clearly can't do that, otherwise you'd have done it. So, like, there is literally no coming back from murdering the puppy.
I mean, he could, but not without his tools.
Okay, but even when he has his tools, he doesn't do that. Therefore, we presume there's a reason he can't.
Because remember, he does reconstitute gold.
Yeah. But that's clearly shown to take work and time and effort. So yeah. But I mean, even still, like, you may have beaten the devil. You may have literally beaten the devil. Like, you won the fiddle. And I'm still not rooting for you because you murdered a puppy. I need you to, like...
Yeah.
There's no recovering, basically.
So...
And then we get into...
the antagonist for this arc.
Yes.
Yeah.
Professor Lupin. Who I didn't recognize till halfway through the episode when he looked at the camera in the same way he does in the Harry Potter movies.
Well... And actually, this series is very. Oh wait, wrong banner. Is very Potter-like in that every British actor that's not in Doctor Who seems to be in this.
I will say that banner might want to come up for the next episode.
No.
It's, it's
this banner. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the diner.
Yeah.
The diner episode.
Yeah, the diner episode.
Welcome to the Diner, California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Yeah.
Let me see where my notes went on this. Okay. Minor opera hissy fit. Equal one. I promise I won't hit the high C. Dear artistic musical directors of movies, please stop using Mozart to denote that a character is evil and something ominous is going to happen. That's not what that piece of music's for. So not so much a hissy fit, but a gentle plea. Please stop.
Okay. Also, what we can say about Mr. John D is he didn't kill a puppy.
No, he didn't. But look, this entire episode just gives me the ick.
Yeah.
And not even on it, it's a scary, suspenseful episode because it's not that scary. It's not that suspenseful.
Honestly, his car ride with Rosemary in the previous episode was more suspenseful than this.
Yeah. And I do look, when the most positive thing to come out of your episode is that the black man and the paedophile gave each other blowjobs in the kitchen, we have a problem. So yeah, because that's what's insinuated there. Because Mash says he visits the son. The son's 21, but that relationship's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
So, and Mash is easily in his 50s.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. And I think with this episode, it's the casuality of the utterly heinous behavior that's so striking to me. Like, this episode is a psychological thriller. It's not about jump scares. It's not about being gory. It's a psych thrill because it's literally about what happens to human beings when you strip away the lies.
Yeah.
And like this entire I am sure there are psychological and philosophical essays written about this episode.
Yeah.
There should be. And obviously I said that right at the start because that's the most shocking aspect of this episode, and you know, again, it's one of those things you might miss, but I say that so people know what they're getting into when they watch this episode. Bet the waitress.
Yeah. So trigger warning of the worst of humanity.
The absolute worst of humanity. Like I said, the trophy husband and the paedophile give each other a quickie in the diner kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's the most positive outcome.
Yeah.
I do love the implication that when you strip back the lies and let people live their truth, like the majority of people in any given situation will end up in a same-sex relationship or in something incredibly like she's a that character's like that CEO lady's a predator.
Yeah.
Absolutely believe she works for Big Pharma. She's predatory as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's dangerous. The Bet, quote unquote, has a sense for people.
Yeah.
But no one believes her. And is she supposed to be like some unholy union representation of Cassandra and Tiresias?
Well, the thing is, I don't really think she has a sense for people because her crowning achievement is giving up the trophy husband to a predator.
Yeah, exactly. And she doesn't recognize that the girl she secretly got the hots for is a domestic abuser and tries to justify and explain that away.
And also the fact that she, you know...
And the man she's got the hots for has been, let's be clear here, statutory raping her son. And she didn't know.
And she tries, you know, to hook up a lesbian with a man.
So she's just completely like, I don't understand how you'd be a waitress for that long, seeing humanity, and you're that like she's a Cassandra-ish figure, or maybe she's a Tiresias figure. Like, there's arguments for both, but she's like clearly Do you know what she is? She's one of those people who goes on Facebook and says, I have a lot of empathy.
Yeah.
She's that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's that person who claims that they understand other people because they are deeply empathetic. You're not deeply empathetic, you're traumatized, you can't see past the end of your own nose. Go away. Go to therapy, then come back and we'll have a proper conversation. And I mean that in all seriousness. That's not even an insult. That's just, if you think you are deeply empathetic, you're probably traumatized. Seek therapy. Been there, done that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not particularly qualified, but just on, should we say, personal experience of people like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, because if you think you are deeply empathetic, what that means is that you were raised in an environment that required you to be incredibly sensitive to the changes of the emotions in the people around you at all times because they were unpredictable and dangerous.
Yeah.
People need therapy for that shit because that's traumatic. So yeah. Anyone who thinks they're deeply empathetic and doesn't realize they're traumatized, this is your message. You're traumatized. It's not your fault. But you are annoying a lot of people with your empathy, so please, like, with your attempt at empathy, so please seek help for that.
Also, I like. Well, so, did you catch the foreshadowing for the next arc in this episode?
There was a lot.
Yeah.
But which one do you mean?
Rose Walker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did catch that. Which, you know, in and of itself, I mean, again, clever bit of foreshadowing, can't knock it.
Yeah.
But this episode, this is one of those weird episodes. Because it tries to wrap up the old arc. No, it tries to fill in the gap of the old arc before the old arc concludes.
Yeah.
But then also, it doesn't quite know what it's doing. Like, it's clearly the Halloween episode.
Well, see, at first watch, I was like, oh, okay, you know, John is just misguided, misguidedly trying to strip away, all the lies to make a world, to make this microcosm of the world a better place because of his own traumatic upbringing. But then on rewatching, he's also got something else in mind. He is like, because he you get the sense that he purposefully summoned the Hecate.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't catch that on the first, watch through.
Okay. Right. Maybe because I'm... The thing is, right, this show is so steeped in all these different mythologies, which definitely come out to play in the second thing. Like, it's very steeped in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
It's very steeped in Christianity, for what it is. But it's steeped in a very outside view of Christianity.
Yeah.
It's like you could tell it was written by someone who's not necessarily been steeped in Christianity, but knows a lot about it and has done a lot of research. It's the difference between a native speaker and an acquired language speaker in the way it deals with religion.
Though that could also be because you have to be like especially in the late 80s, early 90s, when the comics code was still kind of in effect, but it was, very swiftly falling away.
It was very much on its way out at this point.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's still there, and you can see the ghost of it.
Yeah, you had to be very, very careful with how you integrated Abrahamic faith in your comic book cosmology, which is, and Neil Gaiman being the basically the foundation of the DC religious spiritual cosmology, is why DC is a lot more Abrahamic than Marvel. With their very Kirby-esque, wishy-washy, what actually counts as a god, kind of cosmology.
Well, I mean, Kirby's cosmology in that sense is not wishy-washy. It's just Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah.
It's and this show, actually, because you said it, let's have that discussion. This show does grapple with that question, because the Endless are not gods. But they are only not gods if you have a non-Christian worldview.
Yeah.
It's like, what is a god in a Christian worldview? It's an all-powerful, all-present, benevolent being that you worship.
Yeah.
The Endless in this are none of those things and all of those things. Like, you can understand why pre-Christian religions that worshipped gods of dreams, gods of this, gods of that, were actually what they were worshipping were aspects of the Endless.
Yeah.
Like Aphrodite is quite clearly an aspect of desire.
Yeah.
Like, and with Dream, the ancient Greeks did worship deities of,
isn't that where can you correct me if I'm wrong? Isn't that where the name Morpheus came from?
It is, but I'm not going to comment on it because Gaiman has mangled it, and it's not authentic or accurate to the original. Suffice to say, Morpheus is a Greek deity. You'll not find that attested anywhere. The only ancient attestation I could find for Morpheus, deity of creating or being a part of dreams, is in Ovid.
Yeah.
So,
and that's
I don't know if Ovid was drawing from
Ovid's a bit
previous
later.
sources, but
and
there's no
on the topic of how the Greek pantheon is handled, since we're there already. Very important to, this is where we have to take the source into consideration, because the Sandman was a DC comic series, and there are already at least two separate characters with their own series who have fingers into the Greek pie.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman and a bit of Shazam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Wonder Woman very, very clearly so, but
I mean, what I will say is I can absolutely see the logical progression from Roman god of dreams, or Roman god of an aspect of dreaming. I can absolutely see how you look at that and go, Apollo, god of prophecy and dreams. I know. Boop. We'll take all of Apollo and we'll put it onto this god, because this name doesn't exist anywhere we've seen before, and Apollo's too recognizable. So we'll just call it by this name, but it's really Apollo. I can see the logical leap. It's there. I don't necessarily like it, because Apollo was a deity, is very popular in polytheist circles, and is very, he's still worshipped in the modern day.
Yeah.
It's a bit like saying, we have Saint Peter, and Saint Peter is an aspect of God. So we're going to take all the things God can do and call it Saint Peter, and give Saint Peter the nickname we give God, but we're not going to call it God.
Yeah.
from a Christian point of view, that's kind of what's gone on there in levels of, levels of deities, because the Honorani are such minor deities, they're only attested once.
Though, I mean, to be fair, DC literally took all the vengeful aspects of Yahweh and put him on and put him in a cape and called him the Spectre.
Yeah, basically. But so again, they've got a form for it. But what I'm getting at is, especially when you're looking at ancient, again, this was not an issue in the 80s, or if it was such a minor issue, it didn't. Like, because Rick Riordan's run into this of, wrote books and then realized there was a revivalist movement.
Yeah.
But please, 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 for the sake of all that is holy and sacred to you and to everyone else on the planet, if you are going to write a story that draws on a mythology, and I don't just mean Greek, Roman, you can go Norse, Native American, South Asian, wherever you draw from, please, please, please be aware that in this modern, technologically advanced age where we have access to so much information, I absolutely guarantee you that there is not a single deity you can find attested in any ancient source from any culture that is not worshipped by someone somewhere today.
Yeah.
Tread with that. Just don't be a dick about it. Tread with that knowledge.
I mean,
again, this is fiction. I can see the logic. I have no argument against it, and it was done in the 80s before.
It's done in the 80s. This is pre-internet as well. Yeah. So
if I would hope if he was writing the Sandman now, he would play a little bit less fast and loose with the mythology.
Yeah.
Just because Greek polytheism, Hellenism, is gaining popularity.
Yeah.
As a revivalist and a reconstructionist movement.
Especially as a guy who we know he loves mythology. Game. I mean, he wrote a whole book on the Norse myths.
Literally wrote the definitive translation of the Norse mythology as we have it today. Like, if you want to read about Norse mythology, I'm going to tell you to go read Neil Gaiman.
Yeah. I mean, they're right in front of me.
Yeah,
I recommend it. It's a good read.
Yeah.
But once again, we also have the problem of this is done under the purview of a massive comic book company that already has other franchises with their fingers in the Greek pie.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And you can't really, and given how, obsessed about canon comic book fans are,
just a bit,
you have to try and make that as consistent as possible.
Yes, because comic book fans are the ultimate rules lawyers.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I think this is why I think why, I mean, a lot of the time, I suppose, with this stuff, Gaiman, I suppose, tried to go off in different directions with stories that weren't too attached to other DC things. He did in the beginning, obviously, but even he sort of realized, like, early on in Sandman, it's like, actually incorporating like DC superheroes into this isn't going to be a good idea, and he sort of just steered away from that.
Yeah. No, and fair cop. And again, I say all this again, not having a dig. I appreciate the context of the original and of the remake. I just this series is great because you can use it to point people in the right direction for a lot of things. Sometimes by emulating, sometimes by not doing what it's done.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things where I can point to this series and go, look, that's good for the 80s. Please tread more carefully if you're going to do it now.
Yeah.
Times have changed. Things have moved on. There's more information out there.
And arguably, by treading more carefully, it would help with the goal that I perceive it as keeping the Sandman identity as separate as possible from other DC franchises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, right, from what I gather from what you said, Neil Gaiman has clearly done the exact opposite of what Albert Uderzo did.
Yeah.
In that Albert Uderzo started out problematic of his time, explains but doesn't justify, and got arguably worse because times moved on and he didn't, and he even went backwards in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neil Gaiman clearly was progressive for his time and carried on being progressive to the point where he's still progressive. So I can forgive him a lot more because that fucker's trying. You know, like that guy is.
Yeah.
And I say fucker affectionately. I'm British. We do that. But like.
Neil would understand if he heard you calling that. Neil would understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very affectionate. I say that affectionately. But that's the difference. Neil Gaiman started out somewhere progressive, and even when he wasn't that progressive, which I am going to get to, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
He still carried on moving forward, and he didn't rest on his laurels. He didn't pull a J.K. Rowling and go, "I'm progressive in 2007, so I can stop now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because it's now 2023 and you're a turf.
We need a little fucking graphic of a punching bag when this comes up.
Yes, like a little animation. Ding ding ding. Yeah. But you see, when you compare the way they behave, this is why I said right at the start, and I'll carry on saying it. Neil Gaiman, I have so much respect for, so much love for, and anything I say that criticizes this piece of work is fully in the understanding that it's probably a result of context, executives, and trying to stay true to a source material that's 40 years out of date.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that. The criticisms are still there, but they are tempered. Very much so. Like, I have a full-on rant about something later on, but the criticisms are tempered by the fact that Neil Gaiman is lovely and I don't want him to change and I want him to just keep doing what he's doing because he's,
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Also,
okay, so
where are we at?
brief little point of, be careful how you listen to prophecy.
Yes. Very Greek. I applaud it, Mr. Gaiman. Fantastic. Perfect. I love how you get the argument of, is this the episode with Lucian and Dream arguing about calling the fates?
No, I'm talking about John Deed's discussion with the fates. You will crush Dream in your hands.
Yeah. Again, be very careful how you listen to prophecy.
Yeah.
Hubris makes and breaks a man.
Yeah.
Very Greek. No,
you might have to Noodle. You might have to refresh my memory on this one. But
if you go to war, you will bring down a great empire.
That was where I was going. That's exactly where I was going.
Mm-hmm. If you go to war, you will bring down a great empire.
Yeah.
Your own. Didn't stick around to hear that bit.
Yeah.
You learned it the hard way.
You came from dust, and to dust you will return. That's everyone's future. I want my future.
Yeah, basically.
I'll say it in the words of the two greatest philosophers of all time. All we are is dust in the wind, dude. Ring gets the reference.
I get it. I just I'm not amused because I'm you know my thoughts on that movie.
Yeah.
But yes. So yeah, this episode very much a microcosm of what happens when you don't pay attention to prophecies properly. What happens, like, this is very much a hubris will cause this worldwide destruction and despair. Stop it.
Yeah.
Like, don't get too big for your britches, bud. That's the message of this episode. Now, and then we go into the next arc, which
Well,
we've
so do we want to talk about the intermission episode?
Yes,
which one was
definitely.
this?
On Her Wings, Death and Hob.
Sound of her.
Yes.
Sound of her wings.
Death
Yes.
and Hobbs are my new, like, I ship it.
Right. Okay.
I ship it.
I'm gonna
Well,
say
no, you
something.
ship Dream and Hob.
I'm gonna say this is the one.
I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
This
But
is the
Dream and Hob.
one. This is the well. Now remember what we said earlier about hey, you can gender swap and race swap characters. Sandman proves this. This is the one a lot of people lost their bloody minds about, having a person of color playing Death.
I mean, I can see
for
why
those
there are
in
problems with it.
For those in
But-
the who don't know, okay, if you want to zoom in, this is
Is that
Death.
Cher?
It's just Death's a
That's
white girl
that's
in the
Death in the
comics.
comics.
Yeah.
That looks like Cher. Like maybe
Yeah.
it's the hair, but that's Cher
It's-
from the
she's
80s.
she's kind of a goth girl in the comics.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say this. I think Kirby Hal Baptiste absolutely nails the
it.
fucking character. She
Yeah.
she gets it. And turns out she was actually a really big fan of the Sandman comics growing up as well. So she
Look,
gets it. I thought she was brilliant.
Look, if I die and Death is not her, I'm gonna want a refund.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the whole
Like-
thing. I mean, this is, and I think this is what and it's weird to say after the intensity of the last episode. This episode is a bit of a palate cleanser in a way,
No,
and it's a weird way. As it's a strange thing to say that, considering one of the things that happens is a dead baby.
Yeah.
But
But the
But
thing is, the
this-
way this handles Death is so
Yeah.
beautifully done. It's handled sensitively, it's handled with respect, it's handled with love, and it's
Yeah.
also handled with that dark gallows humor that as humans we all do. You know, that gets soldiers through wars and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
on lunch shifts through an
I mean,
tin
like I
of
said,
Red
this
Bull.
is
You know, it's
I mean, this is obviously like a little standalone story. It's called Death, the High Cost of Living. And I mean, in the whole, I mean, in a sense, I mean, out of all of the endless, I think Death has the most empathy. Genuinely has the most empathy for humans, for people. And you can't, and it's like her whole thing is like, I'm there for everyone, whether they've been good, whether they've been bad, or whatever. I'm there to help them on that last step, you know, and like just like she's there to just, you know, like I think she says something along these lines of sometimes what people just need is someone to tell them, hey, it's going to be all right.
yeah. What people need is a kind word and a smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you've ever worked customer service, you've been told that.
Yeah.
Because Death's job, let's be clear here, Death's job is customer service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what that is.
Probably
And
the hardest
absolutely.
customer self-service job in history.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked hard customer service jobs. I've worked call center jobs where people have been calling me at the absolute worst moment of their lives. I'm talking people losing their life savings. I'm talking people calling and saying my mother's corpse has been robbed. I mean, dark. Like someone has died, and you know, really dark moments in people's lives. It's really difficult not to get jaded by that.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult not to become harsh, become cruel, become almost vindictive.
Yeah.
When you hear the same story over, you become numb to it.
Yeah.
It's like I still don't have a normal reaction to hearing that someone died. Because, you know, or to hearing that someone's poor or can't afford, you know, that can't afford something.
Yeah.
Like my immediate visceral reaction a year after I left the fraud department, if someone says to me, I'm so poor I can't afford to feed my baby or put my baby in nappies, my visceral reaction is to roll my eyes and go, but you can afford cigarettes though.
Yeah.
Like, because that's what that job taught me, and that's just fucking cruel. But
Yeah.
that's what
I'm just going to say
customer
something.
service does
I'm
for you.
just going to reply to Mage there in the
Yeah.
chat.
I'm getting to that. I'm coming round to it.
I just want to say I kind of disagree with you on this, Mage. I kind of feel what they did here in this thing in particular. They may have race swapped this character, but they kept the spirit of the cat. What they did not do is disrespect the spirit of this character.
Yeah.
I refer you to my
have the
commentary.
problem. And if people can't get past bloody, I question how much really people are fans if they can't get past skin color or gender, if they're not actually paying attention to the actual spirit of the character.
I refer you to last month, and every single time I said what matters is authenticity, not accuracy.
Yeah.
In adaptation and translation.
And in the terms of earlier, with John Constantine and Lucifer, it was done to to make the Sandman series distinct from other DC properties which already featured the characters.
So there's an extra textual reason for it as well. But I think, and I'm not throwing around any accusations when I say this, it's definitely not directed at Wolf, because I know Wolf better than that. But I think for some people, especially the sort of loud ones on social media, the reason they have a problem with seeing characters race swapped or gender swapped, and it's usually sex swapped from male to female, that there's an issue. It's very rare you'll see a female character switch to male and people have a problem with that. It's because fundamentally, when you see those things happen, you have front and center in front of you. Okay, look, everyone wants to believe the world is a meritocracy, yes?
Yeah.
This is the ideal we all hold. So when you see a race swapped or a gender swapped character, what you are being told and what you have to grapple with is that there was no one of your preferred dominant race or gender capable of playing that character.
Yeah.
And that someone who was not white, straight, male could do a better job than a straight white male.
Here's the example I
That's
always
difficult for people to grasp and grapple with when they have all those implicit biases that they've been fed by media.
Yeah.
And again, not calling Wolf this, not calling anyone specifically. That idea that white men can do it better no matter what, and that it matters more that it's a white man than any other minority, is fundamentally racist.
Here's an example I always give. When in the mid 2000s they did I wouldn't even call it a remake, more of a reimagining of an old 1970s show called Battlestar Galactica, and they did this in the 2000s, and I am a massive fan of the reimagining. There's a lot of people who lost their fucking minds over the character of Starbuck being a woman. What nobody lost their minds over was Colonel Ty being race swapped as a white man, because if you go and watch the original series, Colonel Ty is a person of color.
Yes, because
no
white
one
people
said a fucking word about that.
Yes, because straight white men are assumed to be capable of embodying all, because they are accepted as the default, whereas others are required. Like, people don't empathize with them, and it's not their fault; it's the people's fault. And I would put to anyone who says you have to win me over if you are going to race or gender swap a character, I would put to you that I don't have to win you over. You have to sit with yourself and accept that you're too racist or sexist to care about my work.
Okay.
In a very blunt way. And that's not aimed at Wolf. That's just using the terminology of question. But yeah.
But
that's my opinion on that.
Now, that being said, there are some times when race swapping is a bad idea.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
In my opinion.
Okay. Channel punching bag. Channel punching bag. We all remember the kerfuffle of what happened when they made the Broadway show. They cast a black Hermione. Now, Do I think that actress was absolutely the best for the role and did the fantastic job and should have had that role? No notes, no one should have said a word against her. Absolutely. She was amazing. I've seen the Broadway show, she was fantastic. Do I think it was right for the channel punching bag to come out and say, I never said the character wasn't white? I never said the character was white. Well, first of all, you did, because you gave her freckles, you made her go white, and like you gave her like white features. You also made the character fundamentally behave in a white way. And anyone who knows me, I've probably ranted to you about this.
Yeah.
Hermione in the books is not black. Let me tell you why Hermione in the books is not black. Because a black girl, even a mixed race girl, because I'm mixed race, or anyone who's not white, when they know they are going on the run for months at a time, have limited funds and limited access to cooking, what they do, they walk into a supermarket, they buy the biggest bag of rice they can find, because she didn't have to worry about weight, she had the little bag that, carried everything. They buy the biggest bag of rice they can find, they buy a pot, and they buy and they cook rice over a fire.
Yeah.
Because white people in England eat potatoes, black people eat rice. That's how the demographics of how we consume starch generally. Non-white people eat rice, white people eat potatoes. She went scavenging for mushrooms and potatoes and didn't think to buy a bag of rice. She's not black. She's not white.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's a cultural thing. And so that's why it doesn't work for Rowling to say she was always not white.
Yeah.
She wasn't, but that doesn't mean that a black actress can't play her.
Yeah. Now here's my point. Is, in a perfect world, race and gender swapping characters shouldn't be an issue. That being said, I will say, in especially in the current mode of portraying this character, with the themes that are so predominantly associated with him, you shouldn't race swap Batman.
Yes, I agree.
Sorry.
To be fair, if you race swap Batman, don't you just get Luke Cage?
No. But
didn't Stan Lee do that in his reimagining of Batman?
Well, yeah, but I think that was done before the, Batman is mentally unhinged and taking out his trauma on, it.
Yeah, in that iteration, making him black's an issue.
Yeah.
I'll say, but in Stan Lee's defense, the whole backstory of the DC superheroes he did was different as well. So
yeah,
in his defense,
I will say as well, and there is, as we're on the issue of race, I'm going to bring it up now. There is an issue with this series, and it is my major issue with this series. It relies heavily on does not lampshade or lampoon the trope of the magical Negro, or however you want to pronounce it. The black characters are either in positions of service or are actively like some form of, I mean, everyone's a cult, but you know what I mean, or they are sacrificial lambs for the slaughter. They are never in conceptually equal positions to their white counterparts. I know some of them are race and gender swapped, so it's difficult to tell what of that's deliberate and what's not. And it culminates for me. There's a moment in the episode with the book writer, and I'm going to jump forward and say it now so I don't have to
Okay, hold on. I have a banner for when we're talking about the book writer.
You're going to need the other one. You're going to need the hissy fit. So I take issue, okay? Because what we have...
Yeah, Lucien, just so you know, is both race and gender swapped from...
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah, no. So Lucien is Okay, now you said that, my mental image of Lucian in the comics is like an English butler. It's like Jeeves.
He pretty much, yes. Pretty
Yeah.
much that's what Lucian is.
Yeah, so absolutely. But again, it's that thing of you race and gender swapped them. But the implication of that is that they are in a position of service that's not recognised. And even when it is, the best they get is a token acknowledgement of their contribution.
Yeah.
You know, it means well. Absolutely fantastic character, but within the context of 2023, 2022, it's a fucking issue.
And also, you know,
and it contributes to the wider issues with the TV show as well.
Yeah.
Like Nightmare, the Nightmare Gaunt
Gold
is very black coded. Very black coded. Like when you see the dreadlocks in the hair, you see, you know, the black skin, very black coded, and was created to be a nightmare, and then is, you know, there's issues there.
Well, and there is, you know, the issue of the first demon we see being a dreadlock black man with a Jamaican accent.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up because I was getting there. Then you've got Rose Walker and her whole thing of, you know, she's clearly not white, but she's sacrificial. Her grandmother, like the idea of a black, like the Kincaids, no. There's issues there. There's also issues around the idea that at no point during the entire arc of Rose Walker and her great-grandmother does it occur to Dream to stop and imagine that there might be a way that doesn't involve killing a black woman. But the second Calliope, who is very white and even dresses in white, is in trouble. He bends over backwards and he breaks the rules. That's a problem. That's a major problem. But what compounds all of this, like all of these things are minor in essence. You have the three fates who are racially ambiguous but can do nothing to help, and seem to take pleasure in saying that. That's a problem. Then you have the author who sits there and he's very performative in his progressive politics.
Yeah.
And we have a character who canonically rapes a goddess for his inspiration. Because that's what that insinuation of what they were doing to Calliope to get inspiration from her is. He rapes her, or does something conceptually equivalent to raping her. And the words, when we get the TV rights, I want a 50% crew of people of colour and women, or no deal, and then publicise it, are put into his mouth, they are immediately undercut.
Yeah.
Immediately, those words are performative, they mean nothing, and they are a sick joke. And that's a problem in an industry that needs more women and people of colour in their industry.
I think it's amazing here. We've gone into like some of the most serious sort of issues or whatever of the show, whilst covering the episode, which is the midway palate cleanser.
Yeah. No, but the reason I've gone to that now, that one line, like, again, I have so much love for Neil Gaiman, but did you have to put that line in the mouth of your canonical rapist?
Yeah.
Your slave-owning rapist, and that's the line you put in his mouth.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
like I think the hypocrisy was the point.
Yes, the hypocrisy might have been the point, but the comment he's making is played straight, and therefore he's undercut by that. It's like the thing is, that character is pitched in such a way, he's the, but my ancestors owned slaves, but so that's not my fault. I don't owe reparations. That's who that character is. And the thing is, you might not owe reparations, but you absolutely benefited from that. So you owe something.
Yeah.
And he's never, ever made to acknowledge that, and then is immediately forgiven.
Yeah.
Which again, more
Yeah.
issues that I will discuss later. It's just white boys get a lot of passes in this show, not least Dream and his pouty knockoff Edward Cullen look. You know, he is a knockoff Edward Cullen. I don't know if that's how he's drawn in the comic books. I don't really care. He's a knockoff
I've
Edward
got to
Cullen.
say, have you seen him in the comics? Okay, I actually feel like I always feel like sometimes the way he appears in the comics, I always feel like the artist is having a little bit of a rib on Gaiman because he kind of looks like Neil Gaiman.
Well, the thing is, Gaiman, Neil Gaiman, based, partially based Dream's design off his own dress style.
Yeah, I can see I'm not talking about the dress style. I'm talking about the hair and the pout. It's like, do you dream? You are allowed to have more than 2 facial expressions. Pout and teary-eyed are not the only 2 facial expressions you are able to have.
Though I think it'd probably be fairer to say that Edward Cullen is a knockoff Dream.
I mean, yeah, like but he gave me such Edward Cullen vibes, and I just unfortunately I grew up in the Twilight era. I'm in therapy for that.
So,
you know, like he's.
But let's have another palate cleanser and discuss your favorite character.
Love Hob. Absolutely adore this man. He's brilliant. He's everything. He is the ideal human being, isn't he? He is the man who never wants to die, and no matter how bad things get, no matter how rough things get, how far he falls, his answer is, "But I still have so much to live for."
Yeah, and
that optimism is just so human. That is the fuck it, let's give it a go.
This is obviously a short. This is a sort of short standalone in sort of Hob does come into it in the comics again later, but this is a sort of stat. And I've got to say, it's probably from the stories I read in the comic, this and probably the Midsummer Night's Dream one, my 2 favorite Sandman stories. This little story of Sandman, Morpheus, and Hob Gadling meeting up and having a pint together once every 100 years, and. Obviously, I think this is a bit of the way of the way Death is. You know, his sister's trying to tell him how about to understand these people a bit more, because there's a thing Death does once every 100 years as well. I don't know if I have to go into it because I don't know if this will ever get brought up in the series or not. But she spends one day as a mortal every 100 years to understand what it is she's taking from people. Sort of thing,
yeah.
You know. She wants to understand.
The thing is, though,
she's trying
what I
love get him to do something similar. I think.
No, but what I love about this is that it is so fundamentally human. Of a story of it talks about humanity and the optimism of humanity and living forever and all that, but it also this is the moment where Dream. Like, I haven't forgiven you for the puppy, but go have your pint, and I can let you have a pint without having a go at you about it. Because he's so human here, but then he's fundamentally deity-like, godlike, if you like, because they are fucking with a human being because of his drunken bragging. Can you imagine if you were held to half the shit you said while you were drunk in your life?
Yeah.
How many people would be jumping off buildings, yelling "I'm Batman" and all? You know, it would be carnage. And they pick him because he amuses them. That is such a cosmic level of arrogance.
Yeah.
Of you amuse me, therefore you get to live. It's a very we have this idea of cosmic and deities as being so above that they don't notice us, and the only way to get their notice is to either beg, plead, or amuse them.
Yeah.
and he amuses them. So in that sense, they are very regal and very cosmic. But then you see the relationship develop with Hob and the way Dream, they go from he becomes an amusing distraction. He's like a pet in a cage.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, he's a friend and they're sitting down and they're having a pint.
Yeah.
And it's, that's a really nice arc for Dream to have. Doesn't excuse him murdering the puppy, but it's a nice arc for him to have.
Yeah.
Also, William Shakespeare fanboying to and over Marlowe, it me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And okay, I'm not saying too much because I'm just gonna say I hope they do Midsummer Night's Dream story up in season 2. Please do it. Please do it because that is brilliant. So
yeah,
Ring knows what I'm talking about. You probably have no idea, Noodle, but
no, I don't.
I do think you'll like it. I do believe you'll like it if they do it correctly.
But I love also the little jokes that are in there if you're paying attention to that montage of the same people in the 1300s. The same conversations are being had in the same bar about dole dossers and working people and revolution and prostitutes has been happening in 1986 as well. And it's just the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
This little pub, it's a very.
I mean, I love some of the little things that are going on in the background, and then some of the things that Hob kind of gets involved with he just in the comics, he starts he goes into business with some dude called William Caxton, for example.
And then there's the line in the show where he's I got into shipping.
Yeah.
And we all know 1700s into shipping dressed like that. We know where this is going.
Yeah.
Dream hears him. And again, Dream tells him, maybe think about it. And it only takes. This is the beauty of Hob. Hob is fundamentally a good person.
Yeah.
And he has this optimism and he has this joy for life. And yes, he missteps, he makes mistakes, but all it takes is a friendly nudge, and he's the ideal human for me. Like, if humanity was that willing to listen to criticism and take it on board that easily, the world would be a much better place.
I mean, I don't think they touch on it quite so much in the series, but within the comic book, for example, when he meets Morpheus or his pint in the late 19th century, he actually does express a bit of regret, a lot of regret for being involved with the slave trade. He said that was wrong. Hob, they don't quite. I don't think they quite express that too much, but Hob expresses a lot of regret for that in the comic.
I mean, I do think that comes across in the way Hobbs' behaviour changes after that discussion with Dream.
Yeah.
It's not said explicitly, but it is, again, very much, if Hob happened to also be working as a janitor in a cathedral somewhere and penned a little ditty, it would fit within the canon of the story. I wouldn't put it past him to have been the guy who wrote Amazing Grace. You do get that impression that he felt bad for it and he did try and mend his ways. And he did what he could. And obviously what Dream said to him hit, because he literally at the table decided, yeah, actually you're right. And so, absolutely, if you're going to make a character a slave trader, but you want to redeem them, one conversation from a friendly voice. But the thing is, Dream didn't tell him what to do, and it's so important. Because Dream said to him, you should stop. Dream said, you should think about that.
Yeah.
You should stop and think about what you are doing.
Which is, in a way...
it takes Hob less than a minute to think about it and realise, oh shit, this is wrong. And decide not to do it.
I mean, maybe that's it's just a good lesson, I think, maybe. Because I think we all can be guilty of, Dream could have easily just condemned him for doing something wrong and just...
Well, I mean...
saying, what you're doing is wrong. But he said, just think about what you're doing for a moment.
Yeah, he says you're free to do what you will, and would you deny others that freedom?
Yeah. And again, it's playing on Hobb's empathy. And this is why Hobb, to me, is the ideal human. He's got this verve for life, this optimism, this love of humanity. He's also got a very deep empathy. He understands change and growth, but he also is sentimental enough to understand that some things are traditions for a reason and are good things. The pub, you know, when the pub closes down, he buys out. Like, it's very, like, I got the impression he owned the new pub. Like, he was sat there doing paperwork and accounts. He owned it.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious he bought it because he knew Dream was coming. Like, that's... And even after that argument of, if you're not here in 100 years, it's because we're not friends.
Yeah.
He still opened the pub in the hope Dream would come.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, I will say this is a slight deviation from the comics, and the only reason being because of the time periods that it's set in. That, you know, when the original comics, Morpheus actually does manage to keep his original appointment with Hobb, but because of the time periods or whatever, that because, you know, they're trying to set it more modern day. And not having meet Hobb in 1988, but in 2022, and I, you know, but that little line that he comes in, I mean, because, you know, like I just thought the whole, like, you know, like, I don't need friends with me, and, you know, like mere humans. Or
how dare you presume to be my friend?
Yeah,
yes, I am a cosmic level entity.
But
how dare you?
But I think the fact is the way he got like that is Hobb touched a nerve with him. Despite everything he is what, but Morpheus being one of the endless, this cosmic entity, he's lonely.
Yes, of course
he doesn't have anyone.
You don't create a world in which, you know, gargoyles are cute puppies unless you're alone. Like, you just that, like, the entire dreaming is it's a child's made up fantasy world.
Yeah,
and that's what Morpheus created. And children only make up fantasy worlds. Well, they do it for fun, but they do it fundamentally because they're lonely.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I don't know necessarily if you get to the point where you're liking Morpheus a bit more, but you understand him, and you understand, because we can all relate to feeling lonely and feeling like we don't have people.
At this point, I can empathize with him. I can pity him, his PTSD episodes. I could definitely empathize with those. Been there, done that. Got the therapy bill to prove it. I'm beginning to empathize with him. Unfortunately, he still killed a puppy.
A puppy. Yeah. we're still not past that yet. But,
unfortunately, like, PTSD is not an excuse to murder a puppy. Like,
but I think I do actually think one of the most and this is obviously a line from the comics that when he meets us, well, I've heard it's rude to keep one's friends waiting.
Yes.
And just that whole, like, you are my friend. Yes. I admit it. That's you are my friend.
It's like, it's not only that line, the way it's written. I have heard that it's rude to keep one's friends waiting. It's socially awkward. It immediately makes him, like, I'm not going to say not human coded, because it doesn't. It's like, if you are neurodivergent, you immediately feel a kinship with this character with that line.
Yeah.
It immediately makes it understandable as to why he reacted in anger. You know by now he's got PTSD. He cries when he thinks about being locked up. He has problems. He's got anger issues. And so you understand that if someone touched a nerve with him, got too close. I mean, you've all seen me do it. Like, people get too close to me and I react with anger. I lash out. Literally, you call me Noodle because I'm a danger, he said. I hiss and spit when people get too close. Like, it's a PTSD thing. It is. And so you can empathize with that. It begins to explain his behavior a little bit. But PTSD doesn't explain killing a puppy.
Yeah. So now to the next arc.
Oh, you mean
The
let's take the
dollhouse.
girl who can make dreams reality and put her in a hotel room full of serial killers.
Yeah.
Okay.
The serial the
Serial killers convention. Yeah, I love
Captain
that.
Crunch.
Mm.
Yeah. That again, that episode had very sort of supernatural vibes for me. Well, those.
Yeah, but you know, the entire Vortex arc.
Yeah. Now there's one line right early on when she's looking for her brother.
Yeah.
And she's talking to the social worker. And the social worker says, he went to friends of your dad's, if that helps. I take issue with this line. I take issue with this social worker. If it's any help, the people who took your brother in were friends of the snide, cruel, manipulative bastard who cheated on your mother. Doesn't quite sound right, does it? The bastard who only demanded to keep your brother to spite your mother.
Yeah.
He went to that guy's friends. Social workers should know more about the history and everything else to understand that.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, again, absolutely.
You kind of
I have heard social workers say shit like that in real life.
You kind of get the feeling this is like an agency temp almost attitude. That one, you know.
It's not that she's a temp agency. It's that social workers are run off their feet. They are one of the most underpaid, undervalued professions on the planet. And again, very fitting that it's a middle-aged black woman playing the part.
Get a lot of
You mean middle-aged white woman?
No, the social worker's a black woman.
No, the social worker is white.
Right.
The woman who goes in the show, she's black.
Right. Okay. Refresh my memory because, like I said, I watched this a few months ago, so maybe my memory's not as fresh as you guys. So
she's black, and in Jed's memory, she's also.
She
the social worker in Florida that they go to visit to try and find Jed, who tells them.
Yeah, she's a heavy-set white woman.
No, she's not.
Yeah,
she's black.
Okay, are we getting our? Hold on,
you're thinking of Jet's mother.
I think we're getting. I think we're getting our wire.
Actually,
yeah.
No, because it's the black woman who delivers the line of "if." Fucking hell! How tired was I when I got to this episode? I may have been between caffeine breaks.
So you are 7 episodes in now, so.
Yeah, and I watched them all in one day. I might add. So there's going to be some confusion.
And I've got to say that's some going because I think it took me like 3 days to watch them all, and I considered that a binge watch.
Yeah, I watched them all yesterday.
Yeah.
Without stopping, except to eat. So yeah. Either way, the character is, race is largely relevant to who's, but the fact that the social worker says that is very, although I will say I have a lot to say about the Florida space setting characters. If you are queer, LGBTQ, and you have a group of friends, you absolutely look at that house and think, that little B&B, and think, that's my future. Like, Ring and I are planning on living with, like, a friend who's got a kid and another couple, like, having our own little, like, mini friendly commune, like, to buy a house together at some point. And I just looked at that and I thought, so are we the goths or are we Barbie and Ken? and if we are Barbie and Ken, which one of us Barbie and which one of us is Ken? You know, like,
Yeah.
are they sisters? Are they mother and daughter? Are they friends, lovers? I think it'd ruin it to know, you know,
Yeah.
like that's, I love it. I adore that entire setup. I absolutely love it. I can see why it's not his dream being a gay man from Florida.
Yeah.
With, you know, who wants to be a drag act, absolutely. But yeah, I love that. Like, pick up that house, drop it on the outskirts of New York City, and it would be perfect for all of them. And that's basically what they do in the end, because he moves in with Rose up in New York.
Yeah.
And the goths buy the and the goths buy the house. Sorry, I've just seen Scummer's comment. Yeah, Ring definitely has the better hair. Sorry, you cracked that, I cracked. So yeah, Ring is definitely Barbie. But I'm not. I wouldn't drive a orange Lamborghini. What do you take me for? I'd drive a black Bugatti Veyron, which isn't even big of a prick car, but okay. If was, I mean, preferably I'd drive a black Jaguar XJR because my aspirations are garbage. Because Jaguar is not very aspirational, but mine are. But yeah, aside, right?
Yeah.
The whole setup is lovely.
Yeah.
But none of the people are like, again, it's this thing of hopes and dreams. It's Barbie's little dream house, isn't it? But it's still not quite right. It's like, it is a bit, it's a dollhouse moment, but it's so sweet because it's so rare we see characters in situations like that where they appear to have everything.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, Hal, is his name Hal?
Yeah, Hal
would absolutely be happier living in a one bed like apartment with rats and drips and like eating once a day because he had got a free meal when he went to rehearse and being on a Broadway show than being in the house.
Yeah.
And it's this, again, this show conflates dreams and ambitions and wants and desires. And it does it really well, especially when she starts walking through their dreams of, is she walking through their actual literal nighttime dreams? Or is she walking through their ambitions and their hopes and their fears and their aspirations?
Yeah.
And I love that that's left not said explicitly.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful. You know, if you are dreaming about being a drag act every night, like, I mean, enjoy. It's a great act. I love it.
Well, and I mean, he is a drag act, so.
Yeah, exactly. So he's living his dream.
Yeah.
But not quite. It's still not enough.
Yeah.
And then obviously you have the cereal convention.
Yes.
Can I point out the only person in this entire show that I dislike more than I dislike Morpheus the moment after he murders the puppy is Funland.
Yeah.
Like, Funland gives me a visceral ick.
I mean,
like, and absolutely, he's a pedophile serial killer. He's like, meant to give the ick.
Yeah, he's meant to give the ick.
Also, a hat tip to Stephen King for the hotel cinematography.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely like
shining. Or rather, hat tip to Kubrick.
Kubrick, yeah. Obviously, it's an homage to Kubrick. It's very well done.
Yeah.
It's just very, hotels are a very liminal space, especially when there's conventions on in them. Like, they're a very liminal space. They're very weird.
Yeah.
You know, people, you come down to the hotel for breakfast and someone's drinking champagne and the person next to them's like just flown in from. It's a really weird liminal space. It's like airport lounges. They just weird.
And add the dream logic of the waking world and the dreaming world losing their barriers to make it even weirder.
Yeah, it's like definitely like they did Diner California, and this is definitely Hotel California.
Yeah.
And it's this episode is creepy, but this is a psychological thriller. It's
Yeah.
like the scariest part of this episode for me is definitely Funland.
Yeah.
And it's all in the insinuations in this, and it's so cleverly done.
Yeah.
It's like it's when they're sat in the diner and it's like, look at the waiter, oh, he's 16, 17, he's too old for you.
Yeah.
The cereal, the puns.
Yeah.
It's the when he's looking Jed up and down and Jed's completely oblivious.
Yeah.
But then Corinthian is like, he's under my protection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all done
like,
in insinuations, and that is very obviously designed to give adults the ick, because most kids are not going to pick up on those insinuations.
Yeah.
But it's so cleverly done.
So we're gonna backtrack a little bit from the convention, because I wanted to point out fun little nods to the source material, or rather the source material's connections in the dream sequences with Jed and Galt. The Sandman dream sequences.
Yeah. I mean, I personally found those a little bit cringe, but it's because it's the dreams of an 8-year-old boy.
Yeah.
It's like, I think they're supposed to be cringe. That's the point.
Well, also, I very much love the wink and the nod to the source materials connection to DC Comics.
Yes, it's very 80s aesthetic, isn't it? It's,
obviously it's what I love about the dreams, whatever it is, it does put this in the comment. This is the third, this thing is like the third incarnation of a DC thing called Sandman.
Yeah.
And if you see the superhero costume he's got on is a previous iteration of the character called Sandman.
Yeah, and also all of the villains on the big rogues gallery board are DC villains. Because you've got Captain Cold, you've got the Pied Piper is the one that he's facing before he gets bitten by a rat and wakes up. But
I do also
like I said, it was a nice wink and a nod to the source materials connection to DC Comics.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, coming at this as an outsider to mostly comic book, I'm not a big comic book person. The vibe I got from those dreams was Danger Mouse.
Damn it, I'm not. Now you said that, I am not going to get the bloody theme tune for Danger Mouse out my fucking head.
You cannot. Once I looked at it and I was like, why is it so
Danger Mouse? Sorry.
Yeah, and it's very Danger Mouse. It's like, Danger Mouse and his trusty butler, and it's just it's very Danger Mouse. To those who don't know, Danger Mouse British? I feel like Danger Mouse is British.
It is,
Danger Mouse is a gentle and smiling homage, I think, probably to Batman.
It's just I won't.
It's a parody of Batman. Let's be honest here.
I won't. We got. I'll just say we got a work colleague who because he's got a nickname. We nicknamed him Penfold.
Also, it has to, there has to, there is something to be said about Jed's life being so bad that a nightmare is like, this kid needs a break.
Yeah.
But
But again, that shows, this fundamental humanity of Nightmare. The Nightmare
God.
has something. It's like when Dream creates these things, he creates more than himself. Because Dream, up until this point, and still at this point, does not have the imagination to break the established paradigm and status quo.
Yeah.
Does not have the imagination to look at this little boy and this girl and this woman and say, actually, no, there has to be a better way than killing innocent people, sacrificing innocent people. Like,
Yeah.
Rose is the puppy.
Yeah.
And like, the only reason the puppy isn't sacrificed again mid-season is because her great grandmother steps in.
Yeah.
Like, I still can't quite wrap my head around why, when she pulled the essence of being the vortex from herself, why they couldn't just destroy that. Why did it have to have a host to be destroyed?
If I were to take a jab at explaining guess.
Just sharing something, Ring, for what the point of saying about.
Yeah.
This was a previous DC hero called Sandman. So you see where Jed's costume.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, why she's physically pulled out what makes her the vortex from her body. It's Desire's thingy. Why did that have to be put into her great grandmother to be destroyed?
I think it has to do with the connection that mortal minds have with the dreaming. Because remember, it comes out that a vortex is always a human.
Yeah, but the thing is, this mid-season arc very much mirrors the early part of the season.
Yeah.
The vortex thing she pulls out of her is obviously meant to mirror the ruby. Like, she is obviously meant to mirror the puppy. Like, there are obvious, signs of foreshadowing going on there.
And also to mirror John D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it's all that going on. So obviously, you are encouraged to assume that if it's destroyed, it will release all that power in the dreaming when it's destroyed.
Yeah.
Because that's what the ruby did. When it was destroyed, all the power got released and Morpheus absorbed it. But because that's never said explicitly, you are left wondering of, it's kind of like, okay, but what use was Indiana Jones to, in that one movie? It's you sort of look at it and you go, but Morpheus, you haven't actually done anything here. You are a passenger on the train that is this plot at this point. You do nothing to forward, further, or alter the final inevitable conclusion of this plot in any way, shape, or form. Why are you there?
Yeah. To pick up the dreams the rogue dreams that gather around the vortex.
Okay, basically. But they are only gathered round her. Like, again, what would they have done after she was destroyed? Or after she took over the dreaming? Like, Morpheus is totally superfluous to that plot. Like, the person who comes up with the solution to that plot is Livy.
Yeah.
He's superfluous to the plot. And not only that, he spends most of the plot pouting like a fucking child and acting like he's something special when he's not. He's got serious white boy syndrome.
Yeah, well, and it also doesn't help that the entire plot is literally just a trap for him to try and get him to commit a taboo and thus destroy himself.
Yeah, but then he sits back and he waits for it to play out.
Yeah.
Like, what are you here for, dude? Like, you're supposed to be the king. Lead.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. That's what this arc does. It shows that Morpheus is fundamentally a terrible administrator, a terrible leader, and has no imagination.
And still overly legalistic and vengeful.
Exactly. Has done no personal growth since episode 1 when he murdered the puppy. I'm gonna keep I'm still he still murdered you may have saved a young black girl, but you didn't. Her great grandmother did. You were just the tool. You were just there in the background. Okay. You may have at this point saved a child from a convention of serial killers. You may have what else has he done by this point? You may have beaten the devil in open combat. You still murdered a puppy.
Killed a puppy.
You still killed a puppy.
What?
I need a resolution for the puppy. Go back and see Abel. Give him a hug. Ask how the new puppy is.
It would be
make your apologies properly.
Probably would have been better if he'd resurrected the original puppy. That we might have been able to okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. But you think because you left an egg at Abel's graveside without so much as a fucking note. Also, what is it with fictional characters and leaving babies, children, or eggs on the fucking doorsteps of characters they know sweet fuck all about? Channel punching bag. Channel punching bag. Stop it. It's cold outside. Children need care and attention and not to be left out in the elements waiting for someone to find them when they come out to pick up the newspaper in the morning milk.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Dream knows Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
He does know them.
To be
but
fair.
Who the fuck? Why are you leaving a baby, okay? A puppy baby. A baby puppy, right? Why are you leaving a baby puppy with the first murderer and the first victim? The fuck kind of healthy lifestyle is that for?
Yeah, Cain might kill it. Cain might kill his brother on a daily basis, but he's not a puppy killer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Cain even has the decency to not bury Abel that deep so he can climb out more easily.
It's only one author I'm gonna give a pass to on having a character left on a doorstep or whatever, and that's Bernard Cornwell. He's only with Richard Sharp. It's the only one I'm going to excuse.
Also, I really like how Abel connects with the gargoyles easier, and Cain being shown to be a gardener. I liked those nods.
Yes, you wouldn't hit someone with a spade and call it gardening.
No, he's shown as planting flowers in the intro scene when we first meet them.
Yeah. But the thing is, right, leaving babies on doorsteps is not an adequate system of adoption choice.
Yeah.
And pulling swords from lakes is not an adequate method for determining the system.
I think we've talked through the vortex. Oh, okay.
Did I have more opinions on this?
There is a pretty good parallel between Galt and three parallel between Galt the Corinthian and Fiddler's Green.
Trinity. The power of three permeates this story.
Yeah. Well, for instance, Galt strived to change herself to better help humanity. Fiddler's Green didn't really change. He just left to experience humanity.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
I do like the
Corinthian went to shape humanity.
I do like the sort of literary reverence to Frederick Marat there with Fiddler's Green. So
yeah. I will point out as well, how many parts are there out there in which Stephen Fry can just play himself?
Yeah.
It's that character is absolutely how I imagine Stephen Fry is in his downtime. That's his entire Sure.
I think that and possibly Jeeves when he played Jeeves. But...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I sent Ring a message as we were just like, okay, so now we've dealt with that. We're getting onto the arc with the writer.
Hold
And
on.
I've had
There is one thing between now and the art. There is the show you should definitely never show your cat.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I did like the fact that they put this little, because I do remember this is a little short story from the comics.
Yeah.
I kind of like the fact they put it in. I don't know necessarily in the context of a TV show that they needed to put this one in.
No, but I did love the gag at the end of it,
Yeah.
and it was worth it for that one gag.
Yeah.
Now I need Neil Gaiman to explain to me, like I'm a 5-year-old, please.
Yeah.
How you understand. You understand that if you show a character putting kittens in a bag with a brick, I'm going to hate that character. Why don't you understand that a character murdering a puppy is also going to be someone I'm going to hate? Like, this is a thing. I need you to understand. You didn't try to redeem the kitten murderer.
Yeah, but I do think Neil Gaiman understands the fundamental truth that cats are secretly plotting our downfall as a species.
Cats once ruled the world, and they've never forgotten this.
Yeah, and then they will rule again. I'm sure. Long after
literally at this point, we are just waiting for them to evolve opposable thumbs, and we are done for.
We are fucked.
Or for enough of them to dream of a world where we are all mouse-sized and we are fucked.
Yes, but getting 1,000 cats to do anything.
Yeah.
Again, that gag worth it.
That's the only. That's the only. Yes, there is a reason. There is a reason to say herding cats is a saying.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's also known as the left.
Yeah. Valid, no notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I will say, right, there was a very cute little thing. It was heartbreaking. I do take issue with the idea that having her children murdered is what drove her down a path of extremism, religious fundamentalism. And because that's what it is, it's religious fundamentalism by like dressed up as cats.
Yeah.
She's pushing for a revolution.
Yeah.
She doesn't just want justice, she wants revenge.
Yeah.
And this put into, again, if you want to make something dystopian in modern literature, you take what's been done to non-white people for generations and do it to white people.
Yeah.
So if you want to make something dystopian, you take what's been done to strays and tabbies for years and do it to a purebred Siamese. See how that?
Yeah.
And therefore that's potentially there's racial coding going on there. That is, yes,
definitely something kind of go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something metaphorical going on here with this story.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's not there for fun. It's there because it's making a point, but it is making a point from a very privileged white person point of view.
Yeah.
They laugh at her and they are amused by her when she's being radicalized and taken advantage of in her grief.
Yeah.
I suppose if she were human and she had two nationalities, she'd have been deported from Britain. We have to.
Maybe that's the solution to that's the solution to cats overthrowing us. Send them to Rwanda. Yeah.
Or we send them to their grandparents' country that they've never been to.
Yeah.
Look, the story's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And the story is there because this series is fundamentally, it's about trauma. And it's about how no matter whether you are a cosmic level entity or a tiny little tabby cat, everyone suffers trauma. The world is trauma.
And how
the message of that is hope is the only thing that saves us from the degeneracy that causes.
Yeah.
And optimism and love and joy and dreaming. Like, dreams are the cure for trauma.
Yeah.
Which, know.
Yeah, I mean,
therefore, winds me up when the king of dreams doesn't go get fucking therapy.
Because if anyone in this series needs it, it's fucking
him.
Morpheus.
Yes. And the thing is, this is something you pick up with. Again, I'm not going to assume anyone else's trauma history. I speak to my own history.
Yeah.
But I learned very quickly that hope isn't just a positive thing. And this was touched on in the Hell episode. Hope is fundamentally what destroys us. Because when you are at your lowest, when you have nothing and you have no way out, hope is what breaks you mentally, physically, and emotionally. Hope is why torture and being in hell hurts. Because being in hell is only bad because you know heaven exists.
Yeah. What power has hell if you can't dream of heaven?
Exactly. And that's something everyone, I'm sure, anyone who's got their own trauma, you grapple with that. You think of, it's the bitter, why me? What did I do to deserve this? And you go through all those emotions. And this show is very much about post-traumatic growth. The problem is, Dream's supposed to go through post-traumatic growth, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
He has the aesthetic of it without actually doing the work.
I was going to say, Ring, because I've often thought about what you just said there. I've quite often thought about it from the other end of the scale of, without pain, without suffering or whatever, can we truly, if that doesn't exist, can we truly know happiness?
The people who ask that question have clearly,
well, I mean,
yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Despair and desire are twins, after all.
Yeah. But this is the thing, right? This is one of those questions that sounds really deep when it's first asked, but winds me right the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right? You can know happiness without knowing suffering. Trauma and pain does not make you stronger. It just gives you tools that you then have to figure out when they're no longer... Like, there's this great line where he gets all of his tools and he says to Death, and he basically admits that he's bored now and he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah.
And this is an aspect of post-traumatic growth that people who are traumatized go through. We all go through it. Because we're all traumatized to some extent. You develop these tools, these coping mechanisms to deal with the traumatic experience you're in. You develop these, I talked about people who think they have empathy. You don't. You're just situationally aware because you never knew where the next hit was coming from. You develop these tools, but then you get to a point where those tools, you have them, but the world around you has changed. And you no longer need them. And then you have to learn to adapt to a world in which those tools are not only surplus to requirements, but are actively detrimental to you.
Yeah.
And Dream goes through this. Morpheus goes through this. He has those tools of silence and rage, and his rage keeps him going as a prisoner. And his silence keeps him going. But he learns very quickly, and we see very quickly that his method of staying silent, not responding, doing things his own way, holding a grudge, does not work as king of an empire he's trying to rebuild.
Yeah.
And he goes through that. And other characters go through it. We see Constantine going through it. Like, she's clearly traumatized, but the tools she uses for trauma, like, it doesn't show her smoking because it's 2022, but, she's got this string of ex-lovers, like... Because ghosting people is not a tool that you can carry on using when you're healthy. We see, even to an extent, we see Jed do it.
Yeah.
Like, Jed's beautiful because as a kid, he's so resilient. he doesn't carry any of his trauma with him. He's young enough that he doesn't carry it. And even when he does, he sheds it very quickly. We see like the great grandmother, Kincaid, every conversation with her goes back to, I had the sleepy sickness.
Yeah.
Every conversation.
I slept through my life. I want to live it now.
And that haunts her, and you can tell it haunts her. And then you have Lucian, who had to develop these tools and these methods for running the dreaming while he was away. And then he came back and it was like butting heads and problems.
Yeah.
The tools you develop in a traumatic experience, you have to learn to live without them and have to learn to use them in different ways once that experience is over.
Yeah.
And that's what the second half of this show's about. It's about Morpheus learning, now he has his tools back, how to use them in a different way and in a way that's not how he used to use them when there were other things going on.
Yeah. So shall we move on to the author?
Yes, let's. I'm not going to comment on the race thing because I've already done that. The performative activism, I'm going to leave that in.
Yeah.
It's been said. He clearly has a very good agent.
Yeah.
Neil Gaiman, like that line about Joe Rowling doesn't get that level of control over her creation is like Joe Rowling needs a better agent.
Yeah.
A+, no not. Yeah.
Though to be fair, I'm kind of glad that Joe Rowling doesn't get that level.
Yeah, it's probably for the best.
Yeah, it's probably for the best. But that
knowing what we know now.
Yeah. That's absolutely a modern joke inserted. But again, I don't know what the joke would have been in the original. Late 80s. Who's the big author in the late 80s?
Maybe Stephen King.
King, probably.
King. Like, you can make that joke about even Stephen King doesn't get that level of control over his production teams. Stephen King needs a bed. The joke lands. It's just
Well,
translation.
Let's say something about
translation.
Say something about this as well. That this series within comics, that Neil Gaiman actually, the fact that this Sandman was done when Neil Gaiman was done with it. This didn't happen in comics. Spider-Man kept going long after Stan Lee and Steve Ditko wrote it. Siegel and Schuster, wrote Superman for maybe 3 or 4 years. The character, is still being written today. Neil Gaiman was like, got with DC. When I'm done with this, can this series be done? He didn't want anyone else.
He jealously guards his IP, and I don't blame him because I've seen the state of some comic books once different authors get hold of them.
Alan Moore wrote Watchmen, and DC rolled it into their main line. I mean, it took them a few decades, but they've rolled the Watchmen into their main line.
Yeah, exactly. So I absolutely understand why you did that again.
And I'll just mention this quick story that I don't know if you guys, either of you, heard about the story that he wrote for Sandman. That he then actually vetoed putting it in himself once he thought about it after he'd written this story. And he wrote a short story similar to the Dream of Cats, called the Thousand Cats Dream, sort of thing. A little one-off short story called The Fetal Dream. It was a fetus in the womb having a dream, and going through all the dreams and so on, and then the sort of sadly the end of it was the fetus was miscarried. Gaiman wrote that story, and then he he was going to put it in, and then had to think, and then when he started thinking about it, was like, I don't want fucking pro-lifers getting hold of this and using this to to force some young girl from using this to emotionally blackmail some young girl out of having an abortion if she needs to have it. So Gaiman himself was like, I wrote this, and he realized, actually, no, I don't want this out there. This is probably, because of the way it could be used.
Yeah.
So,
but like there's a reason. Like I have the channel punching bag banner just up because, like, even, well, I mean, the performative wokeness was a big part of it, but even aside from that, Rick Maddock very much gave me Joe Rowling vibes. I'm sure that probably says more about me than it does about the show.
Yeah.
But for so basically, that Calliope is a the story of Calliope in here is an author has a muse chained up in his attic, and he is forcibly extracting inspiration from her. Okay, I was wondering if you like froze or something.
No, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm listening. I'm just listening.
Yeah, and I'm trying to string things out because Noodle Noodle has thoughts.
I'm gonna say Noodle is definitely the best person to, I think, take us through this next bit.
Yeah.
And I'm probably gonna go for a cigarette once they're back. So,
yeah. But yeah, it's like we got to the one that like Noodle was best suited to handle, and Noodle had to go.
Yeah, Noodle has thoughts though.
Yes.
So Noodle is back.
Yeah.
And Noodle heard everything, and Noodle would just like to say that story you told about Neil Gaiman nixing the abortion story, because he recognized that it could potentially be an issue. It's like, I know that story about Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
That is a lot of the reason I am absolutely willing to give this man the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Above and beyond what I would give to most people.
Yeah.
Because when he sees that there's an issue, and when he has the opportunity and the understanding, he does the right thing.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's why a lot of these stories, I take it as he's trying to recreate something that was I don't believe for a second that anything I said about the problems with this show, Neil Gaiman isn't very painfully aware of those issues.
Yeah.
And I don't believe for a second that he's not going to address those going forward when the narrative allows him to do so.
Yeah.
But again, he has to be authentic to the early texts, and the early texts were awkward and were not his, wasn't in his groove. And I think that's an important aspect of the text to the adaptation as the content of the text themselves.
Yeah.
Like, it's important to show that the early books weren't that great, or that there were problems with them, and not to sweep that under the carpet. And in a sense, again, I have more respect for him doing that, because he's been man enough to stand up and own who he was and where he came from, while also not justifying it.
Yeah.
He just presents it. He doesn't justify it, doesn't try to explain it, doesn't try and defend himself. It's just there. And I have great respect for that. But yes, this thing with
Calliope.
Yeah.
Again, with the Greek names, I'm awful with Greek names. Right.
Sorry, I always say Calliope, so you're probably better than me.
I think I was saying Calliope earlier as well.
Yeah.
Again, British American things, it is what it is. Her entire thing to me, like, again, if it had been written by anyone else, like, I absolutely see how you could take this arc
Yeah.
and drop it into a Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah.
Like, Zack Snyder movie, even.
Yeah.
We look like I give a damn about the name of the proto-fascist who likes to make movies. Look, she has to be handled delicately. Like, let's not. There's no bones about it here. When they talk about forcibly extracting inspiration from her, when she talks about being violated and humiliated by their actions,
Yeah.
you are absolutely supposed to take from that they are raping her.
Yeah.
And she's enslaved to them and they are raping her. Like, that's absolutely, like, they might not be physically raping her, but that's absolutely what you're supposed to be thinking of.
Yeah.
That's the conceptual equivalent of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Which makes these two characters, are they as bad as the puppy killer? I'd say it's about even. You know.
Jack Boot Snyder.
Yeah, Jack Boot Snyder, yeah. And that's the, you know, she's a victim. She pleads for help, she doesn't get it. She begs and she pleads and she tries to cajole, she tries every trick in the book to escape. And what we see is the conceptual binary mirror between her and Dream.
Yeah.
When she's captured, she doesn't shut up. Like, she does not shut up. She's always on, talking, egging them on, like, trying to talk a way out of it.
Yeah.
He sat there in a room for 100 years and didn't say a word and barely moved.
Yeah.
Like, they are fundamentally different characters, but they are two sides of the same coin, you know.
Yeah.
And if anything, her arc made me dislike Morpheus more. Because what Morpheus does and the way he rescues her is incredibly misogynistic.
Yeah.
No one can, basically, what I took from that, from his behavior, and it is all implications in his behavior, so again, it might just be my reading of it, but to me, I look at that and I saw caveman, me hurt woman, you not hurt woman, that my woman. Like, that's how that was his entire reaction to that. And yes, a lot of his reaction was a PTSD response of, I've been captured, I'm not going to have it for you. Fair cop. But this whole thing of, you know, he rescues her, but he left Nada in hell.
Yeah.
Well, like, she says, he hates me and I despise him. She says those words.
Yeah.
And yet he forgives her enough to rescue her. But he leaves Nada in literal hell.
Yeah.
I don't know what Nada did. I don't know what the history is supposed to be between any of these characters, but that comparison is there to be drawn.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if you are like me and you are coming to this with no grounding in the original stories, what you take from that is he can't forgive the black woman, but he forgives the white woman.
Well,
unfortunately, that's what you take from it.
I didn't, I also haven't read Neil Gaiman's run on the Sandman, something I wish to, fix. Yeah. But what I took from it was a measurement of his personal growth as a character.
It might have been if his personal growth. The thing is, yes, it's personal growth insofar as he's able to look beyond the law and see that the law is a problem and needs to be changed. But he does that from a place of anger and from a place of trauma response, not from a place of actually thinking about it. So it's progress, but it's undercut by the way he does it.
Also, my reading of this episode is less is more about is less dream centric. It's
But the thing is, right, pretty white boys always get given credit where none's due. And that's what it boils down to.
You know, it's basically modern telling of insert Greek myth, you know, Greek punishment by the gods myth X.
The thing is, it's not. Because under Greek law, under Greek myth, they absolutely left her there and should have left her there.
Yeah.
Like when you hear about girls being seduced or raped or kidnapped in Greek myth, it's not in the sense that we understand rape and kidnap and seduction.
Yeah.
It's in the sense of the man who did it didn't have her father's permission, didn't pay a dowry. And didn't, like her consent was not even like no one was thinking of her.
Yeah.
But that's how we view it. And so from a Greek point of view, from the point of view of cosmic beings, her consent is like this has been done according to the law. It's Persephone. It's been done according to the law. Hades grabbed her out of a field and took her down to the underworld and made her his queen. She didn't get a say in that.
Yeah.
Like, I know modern retellings like to try and give her a say in that, but she didn't get a say in that.
Yeah.
You know? And there was, under Greek law and Greek understanding, there's nothing wrong with that story. And they are a happy, normal, functional couple, even though he's her uncle. And the gods get away with incest where humans don't. But generally, like, consent is not something the Greeks or the Romans were big on when it came to their daughters and marriage. No.
And probably going forward a few more centuries as well on that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in the UK, spousal rape was only outlawed in 1993, 91?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
In the 90s, basically. So, you know.
You know, but, my point being, Richard Maddox's fate has very much the design, the poetic justice, cosmic fate kind,
oh yeah,
karmic
absolutely,
fate kind of ring to it that you do get from similar stories in mythology.
Yeah. I mean, his fate does almost mirror Cassandra in that he starts babbling nonsense that no one believes. They think he's gone mad. And it's because of what he's done. Like, that's very...
Yeah.
That's Cassandra. You know. And the gods do have a sixth sense of humor. Which brings me on to my next point.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is not necessary for growth or recovery from trauma. Anyone who tells you that has a vested interest in not being held accountable for their actions.
That I'm very much one of these people that thinks, listen, I'm okay with forgiveness, but forgiveness has got to be earned. That's just kind of where I am personally.
I mean, you can forgive, but it is absolutely not necessary, and anyone who tells you otherwise has a vested interest in keeping you quiet.
No, exactly. I mean, yeah, I'm all about. I I forget. I mean, I've forgiven people who've done some shit to me in the past. I've forgiven people who have done stuff to me. But I'm also the person to think that forgiveness has got to be earned in a certain way. I you know, and I don't know. Like, I'll get a little personal. Like my ex's father, who I had a good relationship, but he was a diehard Christian. He would forgive people who fucked him over left, right, and center. And I was like, okay, yeah, I know, like, forgiveness is a big part of your faith or whatever, but you're just forgiving. You're forgiving people that will do the same fucking thing to you again, given half the chance.
And I think there is also the danger, and it is a very Christian worldview to do it, to conflate forgiveness and forgetting.
Yeah.
And to conflate forgiveness with not holding someone to account. You can forgive someone and hold them to account. You can forgive someone and then decide you are never turning your back on them again.
Yeah.
And never trust them again. You can forget. You can say to someone, you know what? I forgive you, but you are no longer welcome in my life. You can do that.
Also,
but it's not necessary.
Sorry, but also a dark cabal of critics who destroy an author with child sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
Corrects me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that
that's what the book was. Yes.
Yeah. That Joe wrote a book about all the people, the latest conversion therapy pseudonym book. Was basically that plot.
Yeah, basically. But it's, look, the character is very performative, but he is fundamentally a bad person who enslaves and rapes a being for his own gain.
Yeah.
And it's, you do. And this is the thing, like, for most of us in that situation, you would think, no, you have a choice. Your choice is to fade into ignominy, set up a payment plan with the publisher who advanced you on the book you never wrote, and move on with your life.
Yeah.
Like, there are always options that do not require you to sell your soul.
Yeah.
And sell your integrity. Because I'm not being funny, but he sold his soul for a $5,000. Like, what was it? He sold his, what was it, £5,000 advance?
Yeah.
Like, dude, your integrity is cheap.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not about the monetary number. It could have been a penny. It could have been £1 million. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What it's about is you sold your soul because you could not bear admitting that you'd fucked up.
And like,
that you were a flash in the pan.
And one of the darkest like lines in that episode is, I consider myself a feminist author, and then she, the other person asks, where do you get that female voice?
From the women in my life.
Yeah.
That's dark. That's fucking dark. Well done, Gaiman. You skeeved me out. I hate him as much as I hate Funland.
Yeah.
Still, neither of them murdered a puppy, so like.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, what we are learning is that dreams can be light and dark, and also that people are complex and difficult.
Yeah.
And fucked up and evil, but good as well. And Dream is the same way. The thing with Dream is, the concept of a dream is so fundamentally human.
Yeah.
that Morpheus is, despite himself, I think, the most human of all of the Endless. Like, desire, you would think would be very human. It's a base instinct, it's lust, it's, it's all of that. But desire toys with humans.
Yeah.
Humans are desire's plaything. And what we see Morpheus go through is this understanding of having had that human experience of being captured and held prisoner and seeing human life go on around him. It humanized him, but he still murdered a puppy, so I still have issues.
Yeah.
But it makes him more human, I think, than the rest of the Endless. I also do take great, severe umbrage to the fact that Misery, yes, that Misery is a fat girl.
Yeah.
Because, no, can we not?
Misery. Well,
Despair.
Despair.
Yes.
Because they all have D names.
They all end in D. The Endless all. So like, because like Morpheus's other name is Dream. I'm sorry, I had to do this. I had to do this, right? I was just there thinking, okay, yeah.
I mean, that's certainly one way to make sure Netflix drops it after season 2.
Yeah.
Season 2, Dream spends the entire season trying to hide from John Wick and then is murderized in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, Dream, I'm the boogeyman. I'm the man you sent to kill the boogeyman.
Wait.
Yeah.
The boogeyman drowned in a Louisiana swamp.
Yeah.
Morpheus dies with a fucking pencil.
Yes. He killed 2 Endless and a postman with a pencil. I don't know where the postman came from. No idea.
Yeah.
It seemed fitting.
Yeah, but the Endless, they all kind of have these things that all of it ends with D. So it's Destiny, Death, Dream, aka Morpheus, Destruction, Desire, Despair, Delirium, and Delirium, I believe.
Yeah.
That's the Endless.
Delirium.
Mm-hmm.
Let me guess, conceptual equivalent to Dionysus.
Yeah, a little bit. Probably. I don't think Delirium's been introduced in the TV series yet, but.
Yeah, and I think it's Destruction that's the prodigal.
Excuse me. Of the Endless, Destruction is the prodigal.
Well, because one of them fucked off to who knows where, and I think it was Destruction that did that.
Okay, but there's a lot of destruction in the world, so I'm gonna need to explain that one.
I should actually spend a lot of Despair. There's 2 different versions of Despair. There's a first and second Despair. There's actually a second Dream as well, but I don't want to get into that because that might end up being a spoiler, probably for future series of this.
Well, so I think we've talked through everything.
Yeah, I mean, Greek myth gives us 3 dreams, to be fair. Gives us Morpheus and it gives us the other 2, because Morpheus is the deity of I think he's the deity of like humanoid things in dreams. There's a deity of animal and nature things in dreams, and then there's the deity of fantasy things in dreams. And they're all under that name that she calls him, Onieri or something. I don't know why I'm pronouncing it like it's Italian. It's not. It's Greek.
Yeah.
Like my brain will not provide the Greek pronunciation right now. But when she calls him that, it's really funny because that's a title. That's a job title.
Yeah.
It's not a. It's the equivalent to him calling her Nymph or Fate. Or like calling one of the Fates just Fate.
So one last shill. Alex is trying to get the fuck out of the United States because the U.S. like a big swath of the U.S. Looked at Turf Island and said, "Hold my Bud Light."
Yeah. So and I quote, I'm just going to read out a few of the messages I sent to you, Ring.
Yeah.
Because I think that they're interesting.
Yeah.
I will say the idea of him being viewing him through the lens of Apollo in disguise explains away most of his behavior, except for the fact that he killed a puppy. That does explain a lot of his behavior.
At the end of the day, this is the bottom line. He killed a puppy,
but he still murdered a puppy.
He still murdered a puppy. This is gonna be
I'm gonna read this message that I sent to Ring. I sent Ring this message at midnight last night. Yeah. I don't care how many ex-girlfriends you free from slavery or workers you promote, bud. You're a puppy killer, and frankly, you can get your teary with your PTSD-driven fashion sense and Twilight-era hair. Pout all you want. You'll never be anything but someone willing to sacrifice an innocent creature for an ill-defined goal with questionably impactful consequences. I was angry. Because he murdered the puppy.
Can we? I don't know, Ring. I don't know how, but can we please just work that into every stream from now on?
But he murdered a puppy.
He murdered a puppy.
Can we just?
But he still murdered a puppy.
Just keep that on standby for further streams.
It's like,
I'm just saying.
It's like I like this character, and he didn't murder a puppy, so he's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah. I literally sent Ring a message that ends just the caucasity on this bitch, I swear to God. Which I can't do better than that. I can't. I did note that Morpheus is largely irrelevant to the entire plot of this show. Like, the first half of the show is him chasing his own MacGuffins.
So he's basically a less witty, more depressed version of Indiana Jones.
Basically.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, there's very little he does to change the plot of this show. Like, what aspect of the plot of this show would be different? And I mean fundamentally different, not just the outcome delayed, if Morpheus wasn't there.
Not a lot. Not a lot I can see from season 1.
This is my problem with the caucasity of pouty white boys.
Yeah.
It's like...
But, like, once again...
Do you know what there is? In fictional hell, not Hades, hell, thank you. In fictional hell, there is a tavern. And at the bar of that tavern, sat in a row, or sat together, are Holden Caulfield and Morpheus. Complaining about how they just misunderstood poor white boys. And they're not. Yeah. And that's why they're in that tavern. Because, I just fundamentally dislike the character.
I just say, if there's a tavern in hell, then it's not hell. Right.
I mean, to be fair, some parts of London.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. that will be if there is a. I will say this. Sorry to anyone who lives in London, right? But if there is a hell and I go there, I imagine it would be living in London. I'm sorry. It'd be nice for a day or two. After that, I've had enough of the place.
Honestly, the cost of a pint in London, like, ugh. I'm very northern. Like I have
And,
issues with the cost.
I mean
of a pint of whiskey.
that's why you only have one once every century.
Yeah.
like if Hobbs had been born northern, they'd be meeting up twice a month.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's kind of, I bet Hob would be like, Morpheus, why don't you join a fucking CRU club? Seriously.
Yep.
So I think that's final thoughts. So coming up next, I'm sorry that I couldn't that I didn't have, I'm sorry for the delay and such, for the dead week. But sinus infection, and then it turns out my computer really, really needed a disk clean, and I found that out on Wednesday. So I couldn't record on Monday because I was in a NyQuil coma. And I couldn't record on Wednesday because hardware rebooting. So that being said, my analysis on the national divorce and
oh boy,
should be coming out, or should be released on Wednesday. Now,
can I don't know when it happened, but at some point America has definitely like especially the right wing in America has definitely absorbed the skill of the understatement of the century. That's that used to be a very British thing.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I'm not going through Marjorie Taylor Greene's Twitter thread on why she thinks there needs to be a natural divorce. That could very well be its own stream, and it'd be something I'd have to live stream to cover that. This is more a reaction to people I've seen on the left saying that's not such a bad idea, and rather an analytical projection of what I see happening if we were to have a national divorce that didn't immediately break into civil war.
You would need an immediate amnesty for all civilians coming from both sides to move with the resources to provide them to move.
This is going to be an analytical projection of what I see as the best case scenario.
Yeah,
best likely scenario that isn't immediate global war on terror coming home all across America.
I mean, the global war on terror started in America, so it's going to make its way home eventually. But my opinion, very quickly on that is...
I'm going to go off camera for 2 secs, Ring.
My opinion for that is, right, when you get divorced, there's always innocent children left in the middle of it, stuck having to navigate that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this is why I said my first immediate thought is you would need an immediate amnesty from both sides. So people in the north, because it would be a north-south divide largely, it'd probably be split along the Mason-Dixon line, barring a few minor exceptions. You would need an immediate influx of resources, and you would need a dedicated time in which Northerners could move south and Southerners could move north unimpeded, and the resources to set them up where they're going when they get there to make their decision. Now, the problem is that's been done historically. Like people making decisions of which side of a country to live on before it got split down the middle.
Yeah, that happened.
And then a wall got put up in the middle of the country and then torn down.
even more appropriate. That happened the last time America had this little divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
hold
know.
on.
But also, like, the Berlin Wall called it wants its ideas
Yeah.
Yeah.
back.
Hold on, I'm going to do the old zit thing. A Tenchai series on YouTube. Checkmate, Lincolnites.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I love.
So for
Which I
a quick
recommend that series to anyone. That's really good.
yeah. So for a quick a quick teaser. This is what I have projected as a quick quick off the hand, this is what I have projected as the split.
Okay, I see an immediate problem with that.
Yeah.
All the oil are in the blue states, and all the oil wells are in the red states, and all the woods in the blue states. And also, how the fuck are you going to travel from the western blue states to the
Yeah, okay. Why am I seeing visions of East and West Pakistan? Okay, from before Bangladesh became its own sovereign nation, Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
it's a mess, isn't it? And that's done by an analyst.
I'm guessing
no, and it's even worse. This is on the assumption that corridors between the West Coast and New Mexico, Colorado, and the East Coast and the Great Lakes region are negotiated to be blue.
Yeah.
Okay, my concern there is half the eastern seaboard that you've got as red. There are multiple states you've got as red there that if you tried to make them part of the red, you'd have a rebellion on your hands.
I was going to say there's swing states there in both of them, definitely.
Swing states, and that's the problem.
Well, you got Georgia right down there, for example, which is not necessarily been voting Republican recently.
Yeah, so so it's my analysis for the state divide was maps, and I went, for the most part, I went whole states. Was just national red, national red blue, and also LGBT issues and abortion. So as a measure of how theocratic the state the state government is.
But I mean, again, you've got Atlanta, which is blue in a red state. You've got parts of Texas are quite blue.
You got Austin,
parts of Montana.
Well, actually, I mean, to be honest, if you look at Texas, most of the big cities like Austin is notoriously always been a little liberal oasis. I think Dallas is blue, Houston is blue. Don't know about San Antonio.
And like I said, for the most part, I like corridors aside, I made it it state level for simplicity. The only state I went on a district level with was Washington, and that's because I know for a fact that like Eastern Washington is theocratic enough that their representative in the state legislature.
Okay, but the thing is, right, none of these borders that you've drawn follow any sort of natural path.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
None of these borders have straight lines, so there's going to be issues.
Yeah.
Like this exercise that you've done is a perfect modern day example of why even people who live in the country know the country and are trained to understand the country, why negotiating borders is so difficult.
Yeah.
And why the Middle East is so fucked up and why most of Africa is so fucked up.
And
because colonists did it there.
Right, I'm going to say something. I'm going to put my avatar especially on for this. Oh, hold on. Where is it? Let's put General Sherman avatar back up here.
and
Mm.
Can I just say something? Right, CSA did not stand for Confederate States of America. It stood for couldn't save Atlanta.
Mhm.
So yeah,
and
it's one of those things where
it's
when
like
you look at the
that,
nitty gritty of it, this is why I immediately said the only way it's going to work is with a massive amnesty and resources to relocate
Yeah.
anyone who can and wants to move.
oh yeah, and no, this
But-
analysis includes an assumption that there will be mass migration.
Yeah.
Yeah, there would have to be.
Yeah.
There absolutely would have to be. You have to assume as well that there would be hard borders between the two nations aside from the negotiated corridors.
Yeah.
I just
And
love
that's
the
going to
fact that-
cause serious
I just
issues
love
with
the fact
trade
they
and
can
everything.
argue
Yeah.
that there used to be a national divorce around like political allegiances when people can change their fucking minds politically. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I've seen worse because I've seen
Yeah.
maps of the Middle East.
You know,
I've seen
yeah.
worse.
Oh yeah, because I
but-
mean, let's be honest. I mean, you see most of the maps of the Middle East and Africa, all the borders are straight lines.
Yes, exactly.
European
and-
colonialism much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I've seen worse attempts at carving up a nation on political lines and on, ideological lines, etc. I've seen maps of Vietnam. I've seen
Yeah.
maps of Korea. I've seen maps of Africa. I've seen, I get it. Like I've seen worse, and it's
Yeah.
not a bad attempt. But I think if anything, seeing that you've done this with all, best intent and you've done the research it's not something that should be attempted because look at it. It's a fucking dog's dinner.
Well, I think, Noodle, I actually think we broke down. I think we should allow Ring to explain this on their own video here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
do think
I
we
mean,
should do
even
that.
explaining it is a dog's
Yeah.
dinner, and you can't get away
Yeah.
from that.
Also,
Because
also,
I do believe, Ring, I don't want to presume, but I do want to presume, why your theme is that this is not a good fucking idea.
yeah. Yeah. Also, Alaska and Hawaii are marked as purple because they're not important in terms of the analysis on a physical state security issue.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's by far the best map I've seen of how would you split the US.
Yeah.
And it's a dog's dinner. It really is.
Yeah.
I love you, and I know you did a good job.
Yeah.
But you did a good job in like you basically tried to perform surgery with surface to air missiles.
Yeah.
That's what you tried to do. And those are not the tool for the job.
Yeah. Well, this is like
I had to turn my light on.
But yeah, this was like I said, this was me making like, okay, there has to be a blue corridor between, New Mexico and Colorado. There has to be a blue corridor between the East Coast and the Great Lakes.
I mean, is that South Dakota you've got in the middle there? That's
No,
red,
that-
but is
what do you?
See, I have a better way. I have a better way of doing this map, to be honest, and that is you put all of it blue except for Florida, and then you just saw Florida off at the end and let it float off and do its own thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if that was an option. Um,
And it can go along with Disney and all those things, yeah.
I mean, it's got an airport. It's not like you can't visit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, this is the thing, and this is showing it's not easy to draw. But they talk about. Do you know what I've noticed with this national divorce rhetoric? And Scummer, I don't know about you, but I've heard that rhetoric before recently. It'll be easy. It'll be an oven-ready divorce.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a split.
I have to. Ooh, something going on in the background there. Is that you, Noodle? Or was that Ring?
No, that's me.
Not me. So, were your neighbours having a domestic or what? Okay. But yeah, do you know what?
They're having an argument over the split estates and the national divorce, I think.
Yeah, they're having a divorce. But yeah, it's. Look,
okay, I think it's safe now.
Are they going to call it Brexit? Republican exit? You know, like.
Though also, sometimes I hate being so good at my old job that I'm basically prescient. Because in my situation, in my scenario, I have the XSA becoming a one-party state.
Also, can I just?
This was before the recent article about Florida trying to ban Democrats.
Do you know? I'm going to blow open the let's have a national divorce argument straight away.
Yeah,
I can blow it open with one sentence. So you're saying you support a two-state solution?
Exactly. Yeah, that's always worked. Go talk to the Israelis and the Palestinians. See how that fucking works out. Yeah. Okay.
But so
I'll tell you what. I've got a better idea. Bring back the Vectis National Party. I say.
So
that's the people who want the Isle of Wight to be its own sovereign state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
So to be honest, we can fuck them off. We don't run them.
Yeah. Hopefully coming Wednesday. But definitely coming Friday, I will have my video releasing on, the national divorce rhetoric and my most likely positive projection. Because what I see as the most likely projection would be,
Civil War.
Yeah. So, this is my most likely projection that doesn't immediately devolve into civil war, because spoiler warning,
it devolves into conventional war.
Spoiler warning: there is going to be another. There will be. It will end in a war, and I'll end my projection there.
Mm-hmm.
And coming up next week, we are continuing the DC Comics train.
Nice.
With a animated adaptation of a Superman graphic novel. One that was originally the graphic novel was titled "What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way." The movie is entitled Superman versus the Elite.
Okay. Do you know what? I think this is a DC thing I've not seen, so I'd be interested in this. I was hoping you were going to say Red Sun for some reason, but
no, I
can tell you what's so funny about Truth, Justice, and the American Way. The irony.
Yeah. But
well, I've got something to say, but I think I'll save it for next week. Okay.
So yes. So Superman Red Sun is on my short list of Superman stories to talk about. The only reason this beat out that is because we have been talking about the misunderstanding of the dark satire movement. And Superman versus the Elite is a deconstruction of and reaction to that misunderstanding. Basically,
to the advent of grimdark, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically why Superman shouldn't kill, or why Superman doesn't kill, and why you shouldn't make Superman kill.
Superman didn't mean to kill. Superman only meant to maim or seriously injure.
But
I thought that's Batman, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all of them.
Yeah, Batman doesn't kill except all the times that he does.
Yeah.
You know,
Superman
Superman
doesn't kill.
like,
He just
Superman doesn't kill except when he's being directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because he saved the world by wiping out half of Metropolis in that movie. Yes.
Oh, I hate those Sophie's Choice greater good plots. Ugh.
Yeah.
Especially in the hands of Zack Snyder. I don't want to know how that went. Ugh.
No, we're talking about the Man of Steel movie where the fight with Zod has Superman just blitzing through Metropolis and destroying half of it.
Basically, the whole goddamn half the city is leveled in this fight, and it's like there's no way that there was not a single innocent casualty in this.
So was it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth it? And there's an interesting questions for comics to ask, but I always feel like they come down on the wrong side of the answer.
Meanwhile, all of the best depictions of Superman have Superman going out of his way trying to stop collateral damage.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
how it should be.
Yeah, and Superman versus the Elite is like, okay, so preview. Even Alan Moore, when he did his dark satire of Superman thing, had Superman immediately retire after he killed someone.
Because how do you call yourself Superman with blood on your hands?
Yeah. So, so basically Superman versus the Elite this is why Superman isn't the hero that kills.
That tracks. That should be good.
And the week after that, we're going to talk about Shazam.
What, the movie or
the movie?
Oh, I like it. Good. I love that movie. I know it's popcorn as hell, but I love that movie.
Yeah, partially, like, I would have had it immediately following Dream because, like I said, Shazam has a lot of fingers in the same pie. But Shazam 2 is coming out that weekend.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, you're feeding the algorithm.
Yeah, feeding the algorithm. Plus, I liked the idea of having Superman versus the Elite as close to our discussion on 300 as possible. And then for the final one, it was originally going to be Spider-Man 2, but I'm really, really tempted to just say fuck it and do Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do
it. That was a great movie.
I've got to say, I've not watched this movie, but I want to. I just want to watch it.
I saw it. It was epic.
Yeah. So, okay. So, we're going to close out.
Can I do it again? Checkmate, Lincoln Act.
So, yeah, we are going to close out Rings Pick Month with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah. I think what you've just witnessed there, people, if anyone's watching this, is what's known as a consensus decision.
Yeah.
Yes, democracy in action, folks.
Yeah.
So one last time, link is in the description. If you have money to, if you have money to spare, help a trans person, get the fuck out of
help Alex out if you can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get the fuck out of Ohio. And with that, we'll go to taglines. But first, the tagline for this episode is obviously, but he still murdered a puppy. Yeah. So, Noodle.
Take care, be good, and if you can't be good, remember, use your noodle and don't murder the puppy.
Scummer.
Okay, as we are, as it's this particular episode of what we're talking about, exit light, enter night, take my hand, we're off to Never Never Land.
And remember, the purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think on. Too often, we forget that. And sometimes the question is, why did he murder the puppy?
Yes, the question is, he still murdered the puppy.
Yep. But